Mohammed Patel wins here.
Other than Rd.4 Simracing. Look at these two go.
He's going to do it. His first victory.
The World Championship is done.
What a race it's been. Well, after issues a couple of weeks ago, we are back and we are ready to go racing once again. And this time we head to the home of British motorsport. On the Buckinghamshire and Northamptonshire border sees this great historic racetrack. Opened back in the 50s and a slew of racetracks opened on old RAF airfields. This one has stood the test of time. It's a fantastic racetrack and a fantastic day weather-wise to go racing. And the race that we're going for is round number 4 of the Formula SimRacing World Championship, live here on FSR's YouTube as well as with our broadcast partners in VCO. We must also thank our sponsors in the form of Masita eSports, 3D Wrap and SimLab as well. My name is Lewis McGlade. Ewan O'Leary is alongside me. Unfortunately, we've got no Cameron Roger down in pit lane this time to assist us through with all of that great knowledge and how to crash a car, to be perfectly honest, but we won't go into that too much. But either way, Ewan, it's good to be back.
It is good to be back, and hopefully we'll be back for an entire race this time because our season is set up really, really well for the future. We've seen some great racing over the first 2 rounds at Imola and Malaysia, and hoping for more of the same here. In previous seasons, I've seen FSR races at Silverstone. They've always delivered. I've rarely seen races at Silverstone not deliver, to be quite honest. So we are in for a good show. Let's hope that it does indeed deliver once more here in FSR. I'm sure it will do.
Now, first off, just want to apologise. There has been a slight delay, of course, to proceedings. We'll speak of how that's going to affect the race a little bit later on. We are still going for a 52-lap race and still fulfilling our full requirement of qualifying as well. Obviously, for those just jumping into the Formula SimRacing World Championship, this is where they have a session where they have 3 fast laps. The only ones that we can do is basically it's an out lap, a timed lap, an in lap. That's how they run through their requirements. So they get 3 timed laps through the session. And Ewan, if there is a circuit where you need to get some good track position, of course, once we head to the Azure Grand Prix and such, those ones will very much top the list in that format. But Silverstone can be a tricky one. You can lose a lot of time in the early stage of the race. It's hard to come back from that. You need to qualify well around here.
Yeah, you do need to qualify well. It's one of the surprising things, a little bit actually, because it is a fairly wide open, permanent race circuit where you'd think overtaking is not actually that difficult, but it is a little bit. A lot of the corners leading onto straights are quite high speed, and so you can't stay that close, and then there's not too many long braking zones going into these corners. Like down here at the Wellington Straight, this is not a particularly long braking zone at Brooklands, and at the end of the Hanger Straight you've got Stowe Corner as well, which isn't the longest braking zone either, so it is difficult to get through on occasion. Obviously, qualifying up towards the front will make your life a lot easier, and we've seen that in the past, really, in terms of this season as well. So, yeah, expect to see qualifying really outlining our race results here today, as it tends to at Silverstone.
Yeah, we will catch up, of course, with Mitchy Hoare a little bit later on to see how to throw a lap around this circuit. It is certainly one of the trickier ones on the calendar. One of the ones is also a contentious topic as to whether it was better back in the days of old or whether it's better now. I won't go too much into it because I know some people, I prefer the new one. At the moment, though, with the championship, of course, we must speak whilst we didn't have a full race. Last month, we didn't have a race at all. We only got through the qualifying session where Colin Spork took pole position in the Land of the Rising Sun. As we'll see, Sandar Callas across the board. We are locked on 51 points for our championship lead between Colin Spork and Dennis Jordan. So we'll have to wait and see how they unfold. Who's going to come out on top today between the two of them after the first slew of lap time. Speaking of those two, they are both in second and third behind Sandar Callas. We managed to watch most of that lap, but a very quick one indeed for the Grand Effect team.
Yeah, Callas doing a very good job there, and somewhat surprising, it has to be said, because we've not seen anything like that from him so far, although both Ground Effect cars had a very good Malaysia. Zooks was right up there as well. Yeah, they did a good job there, both getting into the points, or into the top 10, I should say. Everybody gets points these days, but into the top 10. and yeah, they're clearly continuing on in that run of form at the moment. Callis getting that provisional pole position time, which is a little bit of a surprise, as I say, but it's nice to see. And Spork, obviously, and Jordan also up there as always. Noah Roivers, who's having a good start to 2022 as well.
Well, I mean, we say that, but of course, Noah Roivers was the driver who, realistically, I think we could say should have finished on the podium back at our opening round of the season at San Marino. But of course, brake failure coming down into the very last braking zone on the circuit. It was a pretty tragic moment. He took it quite well, though, got to be said. He said it was basically one of those things, and obviously irritated at the time, but came back with strong mentality. I think that's kind of what you have to do. Finished fourth in the race at Malaysia, so looking for a podium this time. I think that'd be a good improvement. And starting from fourth place would be a good one, but we can't get too ahead of ourselves here. We've got 5 minutes and 10 seconds left of the session, and still the second timed laps are going to be coming in.
Yeah, they're just beginning with Pinatara at the moment, who's just coming out of the first sector at the moment. But yeah, I meant sort of in terms of pace, Rovers has had a good start to the season.
Yeah.
In terms of results, you're right. He's had a bit of bad luck, but bad luck is or these kind of unlucky moments are easier to fix than having no pace at all. So if you'd rather have, if you're going to have one issue, then you'd rather have that one really for Rovers. So hopefully he can build on that, and he's started off well here today by the looks of things. As we go on board with Sport to see if he can get anywhere near to Callis right now with a low 27. You'd expect him to be able to. He is a very good qualifier, is Spork, and yeah, we'll see where he can get up to here in this race. Already got 2 podiums this season, of course. Only had 1 to begin this season, so he's already doing very well. It remains to be seen whether he can stay in contention throughout an entire year, but for the moment, he's starting off very well.
Well, I mean, the pace of Colin Spork is known by many. The racecraft is also known. Basically has it all. So I wouldn't... Obviously, it's very early days. We've got a 10-round champs to speak of, but I certainly would be keeping my eye on this kid, not only for the rest of the 2022 Formula SimRacing World Championship, but just generally in future as well. A lot of talent, a lot to give to the SimRacing world, as we'll see through Maggots and then Beckett's. Completely pinned. A little bit of oversteer running through Beckett's and then out into Chapel. A little bit of oversteer on the exit as well. Maybe driving that one in a little bit too deep. Purple first sector from Sandar Callis, who will be finishing obviously a bit ahead. And obviously a reminder for anyone who's been like, well, there's no other cars on circuit. What's happening here? With it being a 9-minute session and 3 laps for them to complete, it is a private session. Takes a lot of the curb going through the club chicane, and Colin Spork departing the final corner, heads over to the line. Let's see if there's an improvement from Spork. The answer to that question is yes, there is. 127.144. Great final sector. Jan Grankvist, those going faster.
My goodness, 5th place for Grankvist. That is a surprise as well to see, but certainly a good one for him up inside the top 5. Roivers looks like he might pip him here with another little improvement for him. Although, no, the final sector wasn't quite good enough, I'm afraid, and he stays in 6th place as Mitchie Hoyer finally gets himself going and up into 4th place. Alex Siebel as well, late starter to this session by the looks of things, but he's woken up now and he's in 3rd place, as you'd expect to see, even off as well over the line. And he looks like he'll be going into 12th place or staying there just for the moment. But yeah, Spork at the moment with the top time. Decent for the moment, but I think Callis has got a little bit more to give here. He didn't improve at all in that first sector. Set the fastest second sector of anybody, and then did a fairly average third sector. So if he does improve just that little bit, then he might be able to overhaul Spork here. There's only 700ths between them after all, so it could be very close by the end, even closer maybe than it is right now.
Janis Brakshock's moved his way up into the 4th position. We'll see him on his out lap at the moment, obviously preparing for his final timed lap within this session. The only 2 drivers yet to set a time from the Burst eSports camp in the form of Robin Panzar and Tom Oldenmenger down in 20th and 21st place. I'll say, by the way, one quick thing on the NetRex team. Generally, a bit of a shame that we never got to see them race in the red livery, of course, in reference to the passing a couple of years ago of one of their most important members, valued members of the team over the last 6, 7, 8 years was Alessio Campos, who unfortunately did pass away, and obviously a bit of red on the livery in tribute to Campos. A bit of a shame that we don't get to see that go racing this year, but I'm sure we'll have a tribute at some point in the near future. Maybe when we go back racing in Japan, if we get that race back going again later on in the year, they can throw it back on as a little bit of a nice nod to the moment as we watch Laurent Kiersmakers on his final lap in the session.
Yeah, he's out there pretty early and doing a decent job with a top 10 at the moment for Edge eSports. But doesn't look like he's really improving on this lap so far unless he can really pull something special out of the bag through the middle and final sectors. Fairly tidy through Maggots and Beckett's there, but not quite as hooked up. Well, I'll say that, and he's just gone purple, so clearly he's going quite well. But there we are. He's going to need to find a lot of time to get anywhere near the fastest times overall right now because he is nearly half a second down. But it looks like he's having a decent run out of things and could very well jump up a few places with this time.
Yeah, definitely giving it a good ride. Now let's see what the Belgian driver can do across. I think it's pretty sure it's Belgian. Anyway, has wild stab in the dark. Laurent Kiersmakers across the line and doesn't improve despite having that great first sector time. So ideal in that sense, but not so much in the first and third sector where everything was put together. Like you say, dropping about half a second over that as we're riding on board now with Sander Callis. See if there's any more time left in it. A green first sector for Colin Sporks. There is improvement. Obviously, final laps for a lot of them. Zoltschutz, the teammate of Sander Callis, is improving. Does Callis improve back onto pole position? No, he does not. So that's one ticked off for Colin Spork right now. Dennis Jordan, by the way, championship leader, joint championship leader, gone no improvement in the first sector as Michi Hoyer starts to go even faster.
Yeah, he's gone purple now in the first sector. Siebel not going too badly either, but Spork is improving on his lap time as well. So even if there are improvements from behind here, they're going to first of all need to find a quarter of a second to get anywhere near the current pole sitter. And then, of course, Spork has the opportunity to reply, but not a great middle sector for him. What about Siebel? Does he do a good job here? Not really, I'm afraid. He's not improved. Roivers jumps up to third, but
nice.
It looks like Spork will just about hold on here, quite possibly in these final moments. We'll see about Hoyer, though, maybe, as he goes slow in the middle sector.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's slower, but it's not like much slower. Dennis Jordan's session is done. He is out of it. 7th place is about as good as it's going to get. And when he's in a locked-on fight with Colin Spork in the championship, that is not ideal for the German. Across the line goes Dennis Jordan's teammate Alex Siebel. No improvement. Stays in 4th place. What can Michi Hoyer do? He's had a few pole positions and a few race victories in his World Championship career. Can he do anything about it? The answer to that question is no. No improvements late on in that session with the exception of the likes of Noah Roivers moving up into 3rd, but Colin Spork on another pole position. He had one technically back in Japan, but we'll have to give that one another go a bit later on. But right now, Silverstone is his. And look at your qualifiers then, as we'll see them line up on the grid in a few moments time for a 52-lap race here at Silverstone. Colin Spork, Sander Callis, Noah Roivers, Alex Siebel and Janis Brakshock, your top 5, with Michi Hoyer and championship leader Dennis Jordan locked in it with Colin Spork. Starts from 7th place. Jan Grankvist, great qualifying for the Super Venturi driver, with Laurent Kiersmakers and Zoltschutz behind that. Victor Ivanov starts from 11th position, and then it'll be Carlos Martin, Damian Skovron, Jake Denahan, Luca D'Amelio, Ivan Leonov, Adam Rainey, Yuka-Pekka Lalu, Robin Panzar, Roberto Pignataro, and one final driver in the form of Tom Oldenmenger. Now, I think it would be a good time for us to step away, obviously giving a bit of a shout out to our sponsors, but also to take a nice little look around the Silverstone International Racetrack with Michi Hoyer.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Formula Sim Racing 2022 series. We are at Silverstone, we are at the home of British racing, and I am delighted to take you guys around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit for a flying presentation lap here for round 4 in the Formula Sim Racing 2022 series. Turn 1 and turn 2, right and left, flat out king before a heavy braking zone into turn 3. Want to stay very tight here on the inside, a little bit of an acceleration into turn 4, then easy on the throttle. Traction will be key to get out through flat out turn 5, DRS wide open on Wellington Straight towards turn 6. A very good overtaking spot going into 6. Want to kiss the inside curb very late, and then a tight white tight classic 180-degree turn. Carry all the speed through a flat out turn 8, as we're approaching in 7th gear, Copse corner, 2 downshifts, hug the inside curb, don't run wide on the exit through turn 9, and then the most iconic corner combination, Maggots, Backets and Chapel. Need to set up rightly for every of those, well, things into the 2nd DRS zone on the Hanger Straight. Turn 15, also known as Stowe Corner. A late braking, trail braking into the inside. Want to hug the curb a bit. Don't want to run too wide here on the exit. And then turn 16, 17, 18, the final complex. Want to stay tight here to open up a good entry into the penultimate corner. Acceleration through the right. Final turn and across the line, guys. That is 1 lap here around the Silverstone circuit, and we all can't wait to see who's going to win the race in their own divisions.
Almost time then for the British Grand Prix in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, round number 4 of the 2022 season. Here live on FSR's YouTube, as well as with our broadcast partners in VCO, with thanks to Masita Esports, 3D Wrap and SimLab. Interesting qualifying session there. Colin Spork taking the pole position. Ewan, this is going to be a fun one, I think.
It is going to be a fun race. Once again, the qualifying times were outrageously close, and that always sets us up for a good one. But I think, as I said earlier on, these guys are going to find it difficult to move through traffic because of the speed of this circuit and so on. The lack of overtaking opportunities comparatively maybe to what you'd think might create a bit of a train, certainly early on, but when we get down to it later on in this race, it should be interesting. And yeah, it should be a good race. So let's not forget about Malaysia, where Spork did qualify well, of course. And in the end, Jordan and Siebel easily outraced him. So we'll see if the Red Bulls do show some of that form that they did back then, whether they bring it forward to this race as well.
Now, of course, because because Japan, sorry, I'll cross that one off. Because the Japanese Grand Prix didn't actually count as a proper race session. This is technically the first pole position from Colin Spork. And to speak of the championship standings at the moment, as we roll into things here for the 4th round of the season, Colin Spork and Dennis Jordan are locked on 51 points. They've both had a race victory and they've both had a 3rd place finish. Alex Siebel 8 points behind them, with Jan Vosnitzer a further couple of points back, 10 points off of the championship lead. Very, very tight. The top 4 separated by those 10 points. But you know, I've got to ask you a question, which is, who's going to win this race, mate?
Well, I said Jordan a couple of weeks ago, and he did win. So who should I go for this time? I feel like Jordan's not a bad idea again, is he? Because obviously very strong. We've seen him win in the past from these positions, and yeah, he might be able to do it again. Brings up forward some of that form from Malaysia, as I said. But then again, this is a very different race, and it will be a very different race. So who knows? But putting your faith in Jordan is never a bad idea, in my opinion.
Certainly isn't. We'll take a look then at the grid for the round number 4, the 2022 British Grand Prix here in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. It is, of course, Colin Spork on pole position. He'll get to start there for the first time in his World Championship career, with Sandar Callis alongside on that front row. And how fast Sandar Callis has been in qualifying, less so in the race. Can he make more of that in the ground effect sim racing car? Noah Roivers and Alex Siebel in 3rd and 4th, with Janis Brakshock, Michi Hoyer, Dennis Jordan and Jan Grankvist in 7th and 8th, which is great qualifying from the Super Ventura Fury man. So we'll roll off from that 8th spot. We'll see what Dennis Jordan could do as well from 7th. Laurent Kearmakers in 9th. Result shoots rounding out the top 10. Victor Ivanov and Carlos Martin on his return to the Formula SimRacing World Championship. We'll keep our eye on Martin because there's a few bit of storylines behind the scenes with him. Damian Skovron and Jake Denahan with Luca D'Amelio, and then Ivan Leonov in 15th and 16th position. 5 more cars though to run through your round number 4 British Grand Prix grid. Adam Rainey for the Netrex Grand Prix team. Super Venturi with Yuka Pekalalu, and then Robin Panzar and Roberto Pignataro. Tom Oldermenga, the final driver on the grid. And by the way, I will just bring it up very quickly now that I was saying about the Netrexes not being in red. Got a little bit of confirmation on that. We do actually have at least the Netrex Grand Prix team, not the P1 Sim and obviously not the Unicorns of Love, run by the Netrex group, but the actual Netrex Grand Prix team, they do have the red on the car, so at least we get to see that, because I think it's a nice little touch, especially to do tributes to old team members, especially after passing and such. Unfortunately, Alessio Campo's not with us, and it's a nice little touch.
It is, and it's unfortunate we didn't get to see it a couple of weeks ago in all its glory, because that was the plan. But better late than never, certainly. And so hopefully we'll see that today. Hopefully they can do a good job as well. Roivers at the moment is obviously third, did the best job out of all of the Netrex team cars, if you like, to qualify here in 3rd place. So. Maybe he will be getting the win today. Who knows? But yeah, rolling off for the formation lap. Just realised Jordan is down in 7th, so my prediction is quite a wild one, isn't it? Really.
It was bold. It was a bold choice.
I kind of forgot he was so far down. But yeah, because a few have surprised us, to be honest, especially Callas in 2nd place. Surprised me certainly with a good performance there. So yeah, he does have work to do. But obviously he's going for something a little bit different. Both the Red Bulls going for something a little bit different here by starting on the mediums, it looks like, as they go on this round of this formation lap.
Yeah, the 2 Oracle Red Bull Racing eSports cars, the 2 Burst eSports as well, with Michi Hoyer and Damian Skovron, Jake Denahan, and then Adam Rainey. They will, obviously, this will change around just a little bit as we're rolling around on the formation. Now, they're not actually changing tyres on the roll, by the way. It's just as it's being updated by the server. Colin Spork also starting on those mediums, interestingly enough, might struggle against the soft tyre running Sander Callas. By the way, just to update you based on some of the rulings and such, and how we've had to run this server at the moment, having to roll back a little bit. We will not have push to pass in this race. It is just, we still have DRS, but typically we get a certain allocation of time when it comes to push to pass through the running of the World Championship Grand Prix, as we have done for the at least the 2 races that we've run, San Marino and Malaysia. But this round we will not have the push to pass, so they've got to do it through DRS and through their own bravery.
Yes, absolutely. Which is going to make things a little bit more difficult, you would say, than normal. And we've been talking already about how difficult it's going to be anyway. So yeah, it's going to make for some very difficult racing for everybody, and maybe a little bit easier to keep those behind. So Colin Sport being on pole here might not be a bad thing. You might even be able to hold Callas behind him, even though Callas has the soft tyre advantage there, starting in 2nd place. As the tyres updated, I realised that the Red Bulls and Bursts aren't on alternate strategies at all by the looks of things. Callas looks like he's the one who's taken a bit more of a risk and gone for the soft tyres, possibly, as we get a view on what these guys are trying to do on strategy today.
Yeah, it's just the Super Venturi and the 2 ground effect cars that are the ones that aren't running on the medium tyres to start the race. Does mean that Sander Callas does need to get off to a flying start on that run down to Abbey, but let's be honest, getting these cars off the grid has not been easy, Ewan, throughout the season that we've had so far. We've seen a lot of dicey starts on the run down to turn 1, like looking back at Imola.
Yeah, we've seen some very poor starts as well, making you fall through the field. Luckily for these guys, it's not a very long run to the first braking zone, especially not a very long run to turn 1. So any bad starts will be masked just a little bit, but you still need a good one, and Callas is certainly top of that list.
Yeah, very much so. So our 21 cars will get themselves into order, into line, and get ready for the Grand Prix. It'll be 52 laps onto the board. You can see way out of position. I think that might be Adam Rainey way out of position in the background. But 52 laps onto the board and the race will be underway. The Formula Sim Racing World Championship is underway for the British Grand Prix as we start moving. Colin Sport from pole position. It is a great one from Sandar Callis, who gets the lead down into the first corner as they all run side by side in the background. There's one of them spinning. Who was that? Yanis Brackstock. I think you're absolutely right. Going for a spin on the run out of the first corner. That is Ivan Leonov, who was up on his, well, I was going to say the roof, but less so in a car like this as Adam Rainey comes around the outside.
Yeah, Leonov has involved. Lalu, Jordan, Grankvist, 5 cars, I think, at least involved in that incident. Brackstock, of course, qualified in 5th place for this race, and he's all the way down in 14th
Dennis
already
Jordan.
after this, so there's clearly been a real big problem, and yeah, Jordan was indeed involved with that. Not sure if he's got damage or whether he's gotten away with just getting caught up in a bit of contact and a spin, but he's certainly dropped all the way down to 19th.
Well, not the start we would expect from the World Championship grid, but either way, yes, a few issues, including that of Dennis Jordan, of Jan Grankvist as well. Of course, the two, I believe both of the NetRex Grand Prix were involved in all of that. Carlos Martin, by the way, gone from 11th up into 7th place. So a great start from him. He's not necessarily sure as to how strong he's going to be through the running of this race, just down to health issues that have been plaguing him recently. But either way, just trying to keep focused on moving forward and actually just trying to finish a race after he's been off for a couple of rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. It is always difficult to get back into the rhythm of things again, but hopefully can indeed do that. What this incident has allowed is a top 3 to immediately get away. I was kind of expecting at the start of this race to have a bit of a train at the front of the field, but that's not really happened because of the incident that we've just seen, and we're already seeing the top 3 getting away. Spork and Roivers are loving this, to be honest, because they're just getting towed along by a faster car right now.
And Alex Siebel also has a bit of pressure from behind with Mitchie Hoyer and Lawrence Keersmakers as well, as we look back to Mitchie Hoyer closing in. Loads of people in the pit lane, of course. I believe Jan Grankvist has already might have been into, actually no, probably wouldn't have got there at that point. Zolt Shoots, Yuka-Pekka Lalu, Ivan Leonov and Roberto Pinataro all into the pit lane, and a lot of them getting rid of those soft tyres straight from the off. Zolt Shoots, who started on the soft, didn't last long on them. Let's take a look at the replay then of what happened. There is so much to pick apart. We'll ride on board with Dennis Jordan through this incident. I don't even know where to pick apart. That's, I believe, that Mitchie Hoyer coming across, and then it was Zolt Shoots out of nowhere tapping into Dennis Jordan.
I think separate things happening here. So Brackstock and Jordan's incidents are separate here. Brackstock gets into the side of Siebel as he's going around the outside of turn 1. Jordan gets into the side of somebody, or somebody gets into the side of him, and then I think as a chain reaction, something else goes on the left-hand side of your screen there, involving the likes of Lalu and Grankvist and Leonov, which is why you saw some spectacular gymnastics from one of the cars, and some less spectacular driving here because of the amount of damage that has been dealt to some of these cars, especially Jan Grankvist, who's taken about a minute longer than he should have to get back to the pit lane. That's how damaged he is at the minute. But there's just a chain reaction that's going to go off here. He thinks he's made it past it all, but everybody kind of tries to swerve around Brackstock and Jordan, who are both about to go spinning around. And in so doing, they go into the cars on the right-hand side of them because, after all, they're all side by side. So it causes a chain reaction and, unfortunately, a big incident as we see a battle for the lead.
Yeah, Colin Sport going around the outside. Brooklyn's got the inside for Luffield, though he's just leaving his nose alongside. The front wing's just there. The superior grip of the soft tyres might give the drive off of Luffield as we head to Woodcote, but that is not the answer at the moment. Colin Sport, the Dutchman, has grabbed the lead of the British Grand Prix, cuts across, and he does lead. Tap on the brakes. No, Roivers going straight off at Cops.
Wow, he very nearly went straight into the back of Callis there as the ground effect car in front was trying to line himself up nicely through Cops there. Roivers nearly went straight into the back of the car in front. Thankfully got out of it, but he will have lost a little bit of time. Spork thankfully has got through fairly cleanly there, and it was a nice move, but if that battle went on for too much longer, you could say it maybe wasn't worth it, and this battle might not be worth it either. Siebel and Hoyer really would rather work together at this point because their rivals are up the road.
Yeah, they've done a lot of working together in their history of sim racing over the last 3-4 years. Done a plenty of working. Of course, when it was Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan at Evolution, they were working very closely with the Burst eSports bunch. I still think they do work together to some degree. If not, there is at least a base understanding between them as to how to race and basically play the long game in a race like this. So no real surprise to see the slight defence there from Michi Hoyer, and then Alex Siebel backing out of it to say, basically, I don't want to attack you. Not just yet anyway. Let's not let these three run away, because now that Colin Spork has the race lead, he is going to be firing on all cylinders. DRS open on the ground effect sim racing car of Sandar Callas, and Noah Roivers as well behind in the Netrex P1 sim. Michi Hoyer is behind now Alex Siebel.
Yeah, he is at the moment still just applying that pressure. Keersmakers is doing a very good job of this start as well here, by the way, to just stay in touch, doing exactly what he needs to do to get towed along here. But the gap to the leaders is growing. Siebel and Hoyer are looking at each other a little bit here, and it is causing the gap to just get a little bit larger. 3.7 seconds now to this group that's getting ripped along by Spork. I was going to say pulled along, but he really is ripping them along, to be honest, because he's going at quite a pace and almost completely getting Callas out of his DRS. Just about not quite been able to break it there, but he's very close.
Yeah, like you say, setting an absolutely blistering pace in the moment. Was 0.3 faster in that second sector than everyone behind, even half a second faster than Alex Siebel in that fourth spot. You kind of have to ask the question, is Colin Spork potentially using a little bit too much of his tyres? We know that the fairly abrasive circuit, honestly, with the sort of medium speed, high speed corners that we have here at Silverstone, it is a little bit tyre unfriendly, I think is the correct way of putting it. You might have some disuse with those tyres and keeping them well in contact with the racing surface. So Colin Spork might be going a little bit too all out at the moment, but bearing in mind how he was racing back in Imola and the likes of that, I don't think so. I mean, he seems like he's got a good head strapped to his shoulders and is well in control right now.
Oh yeah, he did fall apart a little bit at the end of Malaysia though, which is the concern. You know, the Red Bulls managed their tyres a lot better and managed to overhaul him quite easily in that race. So that would be in the back of my mind anyway if I was Spork at the moment, thinking about those tyres. So yeah, it's not. He can't forget about that completely. But the fact that he is building such a nice gap to those behind is certainly a good thing. And of course, we don't know quite what strategies these guys are going to employ just yet, as it looks like we're going to go side by side through Cops. Not quite. This is Adam Rainey and Tom Oldenmenger, who's done a really good start off this race. He qualified dead last, of course. He's up to 12th, although under pressure right now.
Yeah, that was a little bit dicey there. Adam Rainey trying to get to the outside through Magus Beck is going to set something up on the hanger straight. Potentially, you can see a lot more grip in the Netrex Grand Prix car. It was wise at Cops. It was wise down into Magus Beckett's. Now with DRS, nice easy move. That was very well played by Adam Rainey, who'll take 12th position. Very heads-up driving, but Oldenmenger's coming back around the outside. Is he going to stay alongside? The answer to the question is no. Janis Brakshock now, after early issues, is also coming back into this fight, coming down to the club chicane. Good move from Rainey, though. That's kind of how racing in this sense should be. It was eyeing him up, trying to get him offline going into Maggots and Beckett's, and then trying to fire one down the inside as we got down to Stowe. Lovely little bit of racing, as we'll see again this battle continuing. Michi Hoyer still not able to get past Alex Siebel, whether that's through intent or not. Now with DRS open, or once we get through Aintree, this looks like it's going to be on.
It will be into Brooklands. He's going to look to the inside here. Siebel surely has to give this one to him, and he does. Just breaks a little bit early into the left-hander, and Hoyer gets through. Now maybe with the German at the front of the group. Well, they're both German, but you get the idea. With Hoyer at the front of the group, maybe they'll go that little bit quicker and get back towards the leaders, because Spork has got a 5-second advantage of them on them already with 5.5 laps into this race. That really does have to concern them so early on, unless, of course, we don't know this, unless, of course, they are running different strategies.
Yeah, that we'll only find out, to be honest, in not far off sort of 45 laps. That's when we'll figure out the last lap of the race as to what's actually going on with people's strategies. You know how much it can change, especially with tyres around here. Alex Siebel's now got a bit more pressure on his shoulders as Laurent Keersmakers getting to the outside, coming down into Stowe. No move there from the Edge eSports driver. Carlos Martin sat off the rear end of this, but still setting the same times as the group. He's about 0.4 a lap faster, though, than Victor Ivanov in the Netrex P1 Sim car, and they're all a bit faster than Damien Skovron, who's sat there at the back of the ninth place, near towards the back of the top 10. Either way, sort of a pretty hectic start and then things have calmed down, although DRS clearly showing that there is plenty of opportunity to pass around here, despite not having the push-to-pass system in effect in the British Grand Prix.
Yeah, that is certainly encouraging. We just see some difficulties in some races in the past. We basically saw races that were just 10 minutes of people driving nose to tail because it's so difficult to overtake around here. But that really hasn't been the case so far this race. It's been entertaining so far, and it's hopefully will continue in that way. And with Hoyer at the front of this group, as we're looking at this right now, they've at least stopped Sport getting any further away from them. They're not quite reeling him in just yet, but they have at least stopped him from getting any further away, and indeed are catching Noah Roivers as well. We've got to think about Roivers here, because after all, he's on the same strategy as Spork, or at least on the same starting tyre, but he has got a 3.5 second advantage on them already as well. So they're at least reeling in one of their rivals up the road with Hoyer at the front of this group.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. There was a little bit of closing in, at least through the previous lap, as we'll ride on board with Robin Panzar trying to get past Luca Di Melio, who's been closing in. This is for the final position inside of the top 10. DRS wide open. Luca Di Melio with a fairly late move comes back across. Robin Panzar, the Swede, straight around the outside. Is he going to be able to make that one stick? Yes, he is. That was lovely. A lovely bit of spatial awareness and just understanding of how much grip he's got behind that burst Simplexity eSport. Absolutely threw that one into Stowe, and position sorted.
Yeah, that was fantastic actually. The outside moves at Stowe are a little bit more viable than sometimes you'd expect, but they're still not easy, and that was impressive from Panzar to just drive around Di Melio almost like he wasn't there, and straight through into the top 10 for the first time today. So that's a nice job from Panzar so early on to get up there, and Di Melio's not done a bad job either here to get knocking on the door of a top 10 as well. Of course, the issues for others around him will have helped, but still, it is a good achievement for these guys to be here at the moment. They will be looking over their shoulders, though, of course, because Praxok and Jordan are making their way through on loads of cars today, and as they already are doing right now. So, yeah, we'll see where they get to by the end of the day.
Well, Sam Michaelis still managing to keep up with Colin Spork at the moment, so a few positions behind them. Mitchie Hoyer and Alex Siebel have both set personal best laps. Laurent Kiersmakers as well. They're all in the correct region that they need to be to close in, at least on Noah Roivers. The last lap time from them was a 32.6, 32.7, 32.7 for Hoyer, Siebel and Kiersmakers, respectively. Our race leader did a 32.5, so losing out just a tenth over the previous lap over the Flying Dutchman that's hit the front of the field. But Sam Michaelis actually went a couple of tenths faster than that with a 32.3. It was Noah Roivers who was dropping back with a 33.1. We'll see what they're doing across this time by, see where those gaps are moving. Sam Michaelis keeping well within reach at the moment as another 32.5 is hit by Colin Spork, and now starting to lap again, starting to go quite a bit faster than the likes of Hoyer, Siebel and Kiersmakers, who are in the high 32s.
Yeah, it's looking good for the leaders at the moment, especially Spork, who's driving well right now, and even getting rid of Roivers. So yeah, it's looking good, and the pace at the front of this race is very, very quick indeed. Even with Hoyer in front of Siebel, they're not really going that much quicker than they were. So yeah, it is going well. And of course for Callas here as well, he's on a different strategy of everybody else actually in the top 15. He's the only man on the soft tyres. But still could work out for him later on in this race. We are going to see him in some strange places throughout the race, I think, being on the alternate strategy, but we'll see where he pops out at the end of the day.
Dennis Jordan just getting past Thomas Oldermenger there down into Brooklyn, so managed to make a bit of progress. Obviously these tyres will be in, to be honest, not great condition after the slide at turn 1, but he's very lucky to have gotten away without too much damage. I'm absolutely sure the front right of that car will have some form of suspension damage. It was a fairly hard whack from Zoltschutz running down the inside there, so I think he's going to be struggling with a few issues inside his Oracle Red Bull Racing eSports car, but still able to keep it on the track and kind of keep it in one piece without having to come down into the pit lane. We'll have to see what his pit stop's like and when he has to make it. I'm sure he's going to have to come in earlier and maybe change up his strategy on the fly as Jan Vosnitsa. Oh, sorry, I was going to say Jan Vosnitsa because I saw on the car. Ivanov comes into the pit lane.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see Vosnica not here actually, because he's fourth in the championship, only 10 points down on the leaders at the minute, and he's having a great season. So a shame to see him gone for this round. Hopefully he'll be back for the next one. But yeah, Ivanov at the moment, making the first pit stop of the day, and he's going to come out quite near laying off, which is not great for us, but there we are.
Because two names that are too similar.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
I'm with you.
It's I know, but my brain can't function. Anyway, yeah, a bit early, has to be said, but we'll see how everybody else responds to this really now, because we are only 10 laps into this race.
Like I say, it's an aggressive track. It's very abrasive. It's the speed of the corners does lend itself to wearing tyres fairly quickly. So it's typically one of the higher tyre wear circuits. And when you account for how the pit lane is as well, obviously you come over to the right hand side, then you've got that sort of tight right hand turn in the pit lane, but you're skipping quite a lot of the circuit, so even if it is fairly slow in there, the pit lane time actually isn't that bad around here, which is why we'll probably see higher pit stops today than we typically see. The idea of a 2, 3, well, I'd say a 3 stop's probably about the limit. I was going to go to the wild imagination of 4, but I think I might be pushing a stretch too far, as Laurent Kiersmaker's almost died up for coming down the pit lane.
No, Rovers certainly did, because he is in, at the moment, the first man out of the real top 10 runners. Oh, goes sliding there. I thought he was going to miss his box, but he's absolutely got it on the money. There it is, and gets off and away once more on a set of the soft tyres, by the looks of things. So going for the same strategy as his teammate, by the looks of things. And yeah, that's it's certainly possibly a Netrex thing that they're going to continue off with throughout the day. The only problem he's got is what's just come through on your left-hand side. He's in traffic town, to be honest, and he's going to have really struggle with that in the opening laps of this stint.
Yeah, first car that he's coming across, though, is his teammate. There's the rules and stuff, whatever. We won't go too much into it, but I'm pretty sure he won't have a particularly difficult time passing Adam Rainey for the 10th position. Luca D'Amelio, though, might be a little bit of a different question, but still with a superior grip should be able to find his way past at least some of the traffic. It just means that he's not going to be taking the big advantage from taking fresh tyres straight away. Here he is, straight to the inside of Adam Rainey, so got loads of drive off of Luffield. Surely Rainey's not going to fight him down into Copse. Not really, kind of left it alongside, maybe a bit later than he needed to, but either way, Noah Roivers gets himself up into 10th position. Janis Brakshock's closing in on Adam Rainey as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is crucial for Roivers and his race, really. If he's going to get the undercut on the likes of Callis and Sport Cup in front, he needs to make use of the new tyres. He needs to get through on these guys quickly. Look at D'Amelio's straight line speed is unbelievable. Look at that. My goodness. Down Hanger Straight. No wonder people can drive around the outside through Stowe here, because he must have no downforce on that car. He's absolute rocket ship in a straight line, but I'm afraid the higher speed corners are becoming a real problem, and Roivers is able to get through, as we see Brakshock and Rainey both come in just behind these guys.
Also, that was actually pretty good from Luca D'Amelio, because of how late Noah Roivers was coming around the outside to actually still give enough racing room. To be honest, that would have been very easy to have just sort of opened the steering and push him off without even knowing that there was a car there. That's how fast Noah Roivers was going around the outside there. So good spatial awareness. But next up for Roivers is Robin Panzer. Viktor Ivanov sets the fast lap of the race, by the way, with a 1:31.659. It's a second faster than your race leaders. But of course, the first sector gets absolutely demolished by Noah Roivers, who goes 3/10 faster than even that in the first sector. We're riding on board with Noah Roivers. Next one to take off is Robin Panzer. The grip is there. Hello to the undercut, as that is a position made on the Swede.
Yeah, more than a hello to the undercut here. It's going to be a massive factor in this race. Oh dear, Robin Panzer tries to fight that one around the outside like he did with D'Amelio at Stowe, let's not forget, but can't quite do it there with Roivers. It was a valiant effort, possibly a needless one, but a valiant effort nevertheless to try and keep Roivers behind. Just look at the gap on the left-hand side, the way it's absolutely tumbling. From Roivers to Spork, 15 seconds, although Spork's in the pit lane now, so it is tumbling quite a lot, but through Maggots and Beckett's there, he was really gaining very quickly, and we very much could see a new leader in the form of Noah Roivers here, if indeed he can just get through quickly enough. Scrobron gets in his way slightly, but where is he going to be in relation to Spork and Callis?
Well, Spork's just leaving the pit lane now. Of course, Mitchy Hoyer will take over the race lead, as we'll see Colin Spork back out onto the racetrack. Where is Noah Roivers? Not going to be close enough. Colin Spork out way ahead. So is Sandar Callis, but I mean, it would have worked if there wasn't as much traffic.
Oh,
You
yeah.
were 100% right to have picked that up as Noah Roivers was leaving pit lane. A little bit deep on the brakes there from Skobron. Now, not only will Noah Roivers pick up the position, but he also has DRS as well, I believe. Yes, he does.
He does have DRS, and that's going to get him into the DRS of Callas now, who's going to have to take the pain of the medium tyres. So even though these guys are both on new ones, he is going to get overtaken here, you would imagine, by Noah Roivers. Borka's got a nice lead, though, on those soft tyres, so he's certainly in control of this race now, and he can try and keep everybody else at arm's length, as long as Hoyer and Siebel aren't aiming to do one less pit stop than him, and in which case we do really have a race on our hands. But yes, Roivers is going to have to try and get through on Callas here, and you'd imagine he is going to be able to, although that's obviously grip from the undercut is going to start to be wearing away now. The kind of edge is going to be taking off these tyres now, even after only a couple of laps.
Considering how little time is lost in pit lane, courtesy of being 100 km/h speed in the pit lane, even with that tight right-hander, I'm not necessarily sure about this whole going longer strategy that Michi Hoyer and Alex Siebel are doing, as Carlos Martin to the inside of Tom Oldenmenger coming down into Stowe, obviously pitted from 7th position, going to try and get down and complete the position, although it's not just there. Oh, Oldenmenger nearly made contact with the Spaniard's rear tyre. Like I say, this is a good drive from Carlos Martin at the moment. I know running around in 11th spot, but there's still plenty of drivers ahead. The tyre yet to stop as well.
This is the classic situation, though, in FSR, isn't it? The likes of Hoyer and Siebel going long and preserving their tyres, and Spork just going absolutely bananas and ripping the tyres to pieces while going very quickly. It's the classic situation that we've seen more than on one occasion this season already, and I'm sure we're going to continue to see that throughout here. So, it's very interesting indeed, and these split strategy races are always exciting. I know only the softer mediums are really used in these races these days, but it doesn't mean it isn't interesting. It doesn't mean that the strategy options aren't open, and that's exactly what you want to see in a series like this. What we had last year, especially towards the start of the season, then we're getting it again in 2022.
Yeah, 100%. We won't see the hards out in action today unless someone's made a critical error. Fastest lap of the race, by the way. Got to give a shout out. Adam Rainey with the fastest lap of the race right now. I know that won't stand because of other drivers setting their time, but a 31.253. Here comes the move from Colin Spork down the inside of Alex Siebel. I mean, Siebel knew that one was coming, so that one was pretty much the easiest move Spork's going to get all afternoon. Next one will be Michi Hoyer, who's come into the pit lane, I do believe, ahead of that grouping, and the answer to that question is yes. So Colin Spork will return to the race lead in the British Grand Prix. 14 laps, first pit stops completed from most of the cars. We're not even a quarter of the way through this race. Yeah,
and I'm afraid we've got another car off the road. I think it's Grankvist off the road, is it? No, it's Denahan. Sorry, Jake Denahan's off the road. I saw a blue dot. It's Jake Denahan, of Edge eSports. Lost his front wing, went off at Magnus and Beckett's. No real small accidents here, although there is a lot of tarmac off onto the left and right hand side, and the walls are quite far away. You still don't have small accidents around here due to the speed, and here it is.
See where he lost it. Oh, it just went by itself, not even by touching the curb. My goodness. Don't see that too often. Typically, you lose the rear end courtesy of using the curbs a bit too much, particularly with the first part and the second part. You've got like quite a large sausage on the left hand side of the first part, and then the second part, and really the third as well. There's a couple of little perpendicular sausages that do tend to lift the rear off the road and such. You can see that very large one there on the right hand side of shot, just as we see Alex Siebel roll through Magnus and Beckers, and you can see there's other sausage curbs as well, the anti-cuts that like I say, if you abuse those, they do typically drop the rear, but don't tend to see those. Zolt shoots also out of the race.
Yeah, unfortunately that is the case at the moment for ground effects, so they're down to one car, unfortunately, just stopped out on the road, unfortunately, as Laurent Kiersmakers is finding himself in a bit of a burst sandwich. All the burst cars around him at the moment. No. Skrovron is next up. He's on the soft tyres, is Kiersmakers, so he can drive right around the outside of the medium runners, as he does just there. Michi Hoyer behind, he's going to have a much easier time of getting through on his teammate, and that's him down the inside into the final chicane. So Hoyer has been helped out there a little bit, and Kiersmakers did indeed jump the German there in the pit stops. Because of a bit of an undercut for the Edge eSports car, but Hoyer has got him in his sights now, and surely it's only a matter of time until he's back in front again.
I believe you call that a burst eSports sandwich, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I forgot what I was commentating with, actually.
Yeah, exactly. You be careful on this topic, good sir. You don't call it a white bread sandwich, do you? Right, Better drive off then from Laurent Kiersmakers than Robin Panzar, but it almost seems like Michi Hoyer might try and go for the double here. You can see he's got the overspeed. He gets to the inside and might just try and hold Laurent Kiersmakers there. He gets past Laurent Kiersmakers down the inside. Not quite completed yet, though. He's got to do it at Luffield by throwing it in there. The slower driver of Robin Panzar ahead might just assist his sister teammate here, rolling off the corner. Lovely stuff there from Michi Hoyer to clear Laurent Kiersmakers.
Yeah, absolutely judged inch perfect, wasn't it? Because if he'd have done that a moment earlier, he would have got spun around and there would have been quite a large accident. Kiersmakers not giving up just yet, and I'm a little bit surprised Panzar hasn't let Hoyer through at this particular part of the racetrack, because he'd much rather use the grip of the soft tyres, but he set himself up nicely. A lovely exit through Chapel, and I think even if Panzar wasn't his teammate, he'd get through on this car naturally anyway. So we go up into Stowe, although Panzar not making it quite as easy for him as I was expecting.
No, yeah, that was a bit of a shock. Runs a little bit wide, though, and then allows his teammate to pass. I'm sure that'll be classified as a mistake. As Laurent Kiersmakers now goes around the outside, got the inside. Oh, a little bit of contact between the two. Rolling through club, final corner, ticked off. Laurent Kiersmakers is up into sixth spot. Great drive from the Edge eSports driver right now, as we'll refocus on this battle for second position. Noah Roivers right on it. Sander Callas and Alex Siebel, of course. Siebel on the worn tyres. Oh, bit of a screen freeze there from Noah Roivers. That's what's dropped him off of the rear end of this one. Might have been somewhat of a connection issue. There's to the inside. Sander Callas going for it. Not quite making that one stick.
No, not quite. Not being able to be brave enough down the inside of Brooklands there by the looks of things. It's as I said earlier, it's not an easy place to make a move. The braking zone isn't all that big really, and so you do need to be very, very close. And despite the fact Callas is right now, not quite enough as he goes for it at Cops. Oh, fully committed, and I'm afraid it's ended in disaster for the both of them.
Noah Roivers is going to come through and pick both of them off, having a slight amount of connection issues there was Noah Roivers, but still manages to pick up second position. We'll need to take another look at that second place, at that move there. Obviously seeing some issues out there right now, but Alex Siebel was the one who was dropped the invoice in all of that, and he is way off the rear end of this train. Noah Roivers up into second position, so for NetRex things are looking quite good with their team. Obviously they run Unicorns of Love, the NetRex P1 Sim and the NetRex Grand Prix team, currently running 1 and 2 for the team. They were close to a 1-2-3 lockout until the brake failure late in the race at Imola with Noah Roivers, but still they are looking to secure at least a 1-2 this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's looking pretty good right now for NetRex, it has to be said. I mean, moves at Cops are always risky, aren't they? And in the end, it was on, certainly, but unfortunately it ended up in disaster for both of them. And Siebel was going to be particularly disappointed with that because he's obviously clearly going for a different strategy here today. And it's not quite paying off at the moment. Down to fourth. And Hoyer, who he was running with earlier on, is about to catch him despite the fact he's made a pit stop. So, yeah, it's not looking great right now for Siebel, unfortunately, especially not after that incident a lap ago.
Yeah, obviously that one will be an interesting one to sort of go through and figure out. But either way, running on those medium tyres now, dropping back into the clutches of Michi Hoyer. We'll take a look once more as to the issues down to the first corners the old first corner, sorry, Cops. Oh. Yeah, see that one, you'd say sometimes that might have been a bit of connection. I'd say that was just Sander Callas overdoing it potentially a little bit.
I don't know. Yeah, it really depends how far to the right hand side he was, but I suspect that there was a little bit more room to give there on the right hand side, and he just didn't, unfortunately. So yeah, it's always a risky one. You do have to be very calculated through there, or otherwise it does end up in disaster. And certainly Siebel is going to be not happy about that. Callas may well get a penalty, but we'll wait and see. Of course, it is another great drive from him though so far. It's still on the podium for Callas in the ground effect car. He's been has a solid Malaysia, running very close to Zooks the whole time as well. Unfortunately, his teammate this time around has gone, but yes, he's running well again here. A solid top 5 at the moment. Yeah,
like I say, looking very, very strong. Right now, it's just where you're going to end up. I mean, with there being so much left of this race and how the strategy is, you can kind of say basically any position. Michi Hoyer, though, going for the move for 4th place. This one shouldn't be a particularly hard fight, which is a bit of a shame for Alex Siebel, who'd done quite a lot of work to pull out a decent gap on Michi Hoyer, but that one now is ended after the issues down into Cops. Now Mitchy Hoyer up into 4th position, and I fear that Alex Siebel is going to drop back a few here. On board with Janis Brakshock now, who's closed back in on Dennis Jordan, who's worked his way up inside the top 10. Same with Adam Rainey again. Great little drive from Adam Rainey, up in 8th position right now.
Yeah, another solid drive from Rainey at the moment. Unfortunately, he's not been in the top 10 yet this season, so maybe today will be the day for him. But yeah, Jordan and Brakshock have basically been following him for some of the day. Certainly at this point they are, after their recovery through the field, and I wouldn't expect to see these two that far apart for the remainder of this race, really. The two of them have been working together a little bit to get up the order, and they'll probably continue to do so, despite the fact that they're on different strategies right now. Red Bull continuing to run with the mediums as things stand, and Brakshock resorting to the softs at the moment. Siebel finally makes his first pit stop of the day.
Yeah, very late one there for Alex Siebel. To be honest, I completely forgot that he hadn't made a pit stop yet. That's why everyone else has. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Alex Siebel into the pit lane, potentially going for... Well, one stop would be too far, but definitely aiming for a 2-stop whilst everyone else heads to the region. Yeah, definitely a 2-stop with coming out on the soft tyres. But whilst everyone else is sort of focused on maybe a 3, potentially even... I'm actually going to go with it now. Potentially even a 4-stop. I'm just not sure that that's really the advantageous strategy. It doesn't feel like the kind of track with the pit lane time that we have to really try and push that strategy, push the boat out on that side too long. We saw it last year as well through some of the races, like the Portuguese Grand Prix and stuff, with Janis Simicic going for a 3 or even I think a 4-stop strategy there, and Zandvoort and stuff, because of the shorter pit lanes.
Yeah, Nürburgring, I think Siebel tried it, didn't he, for a 4-stop strategy. So yeah, it can be done. And let's not forget, Roivers came in, was one of the first of the front runners to come in from medium tyres in the first 10 laps. I think he came in on lap 10 or 11. So if you divide that up into a 52-lap race, then you do get 5 stints and 4 pit stops. So I'm not going to put it out of the question either now that we're starting to see this race develop. And the high-speed nature of this circuit really starting to take effect as well. The sun being out and the whatever being can't help. So yeah, it's all adding up today for a very abrasive race. And some people, like Siebel, of course, going for as short as 2 stops, and some maybe even as many as 4 times. We'll wait and see on that. But yeah, 21 laps into this race now, we might well be seeing another round of stops starting pretty soon.
Well, to use Noah Roivers as an example to see where the lap times are, he is 11 laps in, so he's gone longer on the soft tyres than he did on the mediums. Obviously, went for an undercut to try and gain a little bit of track position. But based on where they were running early in the stint, which was in the low 31s, now running in the low 32, so losing around about 0.7 to a second a lap on tyre wear. Let's see if Janis Brakshock, though, can clear Dennis Jordan. No, that Red Bull racing, counter to how we typically see Red Bulls in real life, looks pretty handy in a straight line, to be perfectly honest.
Well, yeah, we haven't seen quite enough yet to know if Jordan's quite handy in a straight line or Brakshock's quite slow in a straight line. We don't quite know yet, but certainly Brakshock should be having a bit more of a go on the back of this Red Bull at this point. We'll see down into Stowe, because that does seem to be the slightly better opportunity to make a move, but then again you're likely going to be fed around the outside, which is not particularly ideal. Although Jordan's not had a fantastic line through Magus and Beckett's there, the run through Chapel is a lot smoother for the Hungarian, and this could be Brakshock's time to get forward into the inside line. Jordan defends quite late. Brakshock goes to the outside line. Is he going to be able to hang it around here? It's a long way, and Jordan slams the door in his face very, very aggressively.
Yeah, it's not typically the style of racing that we see from Dennis Jordan, but there wasn't really enough of an overlap there from Janis Brakshock again, though I don't believe in the whole "it's my corner so I can push you off" type. We've been through that a few times, haven't we? Yeah, we don't stand for that. We go against it, all of that
Verstappen
stuff.
era.
Yeah, exactly. No comment actually. No, I don't want to go. Okay. You'll start irritating Zach Sweeney in a minute.
Yeah.
But either way,
he'll be in bed.
It is his bedtime. Yeah, that's true. That is true. He's not 16 until Tuesday. we'll embarrass him a little bit on that side. Victor Ivanov, by the way, a retirement from the race. So unfortunately jumping in from Jan Vosnitzer and retiring from the British Grand Prix. Here comes the move from Janis Brakshock down the inside.
With this inside line this time, and nearly skated into the side actually of the Red Bull there, but not quite able to do it. Maybe the cutback line through Luffield is going to be the one, but it's not a fantastic exit, I'm afraid. And speaking of side-by-side through Luffield, Panzer is defending from D'Amelio at the moment, who has been involved in some of these battles. It's actually Panzer getting through on D'Amelio, but D'Amelio not quite giving up just yet. Around the outside at Kops is a brave one, and he's not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, giving up is not typically something that Luca D'Amelio does, at least when it comes to the on-track racing. A little bit of side-by-side, he's all right with it. He'll give it a good go. Down, though, into 12th position. Of course, it'll be a little bit tricky for him at the moment on those medium tyres when most of the grid are running on the softs. At the moment, there's a move around the outside. That is Janis Brakshock getting past Dennis Jordan. Alex Siebel's on the case as well. And there we go. Smart move from Dennis Jordan. Obviously, having Janis Brakshock there, slowing him down a little bit, and thought, right, now's the perfect time to hand over to Alex Siebel, who's now up in 9th spot. I don't think it'll be long before we see Alex Siebel up in 8th.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too long, but then again, it could well be. Brakshock's not going to let this one go easily by any stretch of the imagination, although I think the new tyres in the end will be too much, really. Siebel only came in 3 laps ago, let's not forget. Brakshock coming towards the end of a soft tyre stint. He is going to be on the ropes here, if not overtaken by the time we get into Brooklyn. Slipstream, DRS, and should be easy for Siebel, and it is.
If not even fought from Janis Brakshock. He lifted out of that one big time, rolling down into Brooklands. It's just the grip difference. You could see there the traction that he got off of the loop and the run round Aintree. It was so much. It honestly will not be long. Bearing in mind it's a 2.5 second gap to Adam Rainey, that will be in a lap or two. That's how much faster fresh tyres are around here. We'll take another look at the move from Luca D'Amelio when he was passed by Robin Panzer. It was the outside of Brooklands that the Swede went. A little bit of a squeeze there for D'Amelio, but gave plenty of room. Nice little move there from Robin Panzer. That wasn't, though.
Well, it's just enough room given there, just enough. But any less, and it would have been a problem for Panzer there. But yeah, he returned the favour duly through Luffield, shoving D'Amelio out a little bit wide. And then the number 4 car couldn't hang it around the outside through Kops there. He's on older mediums compared to Panzer's softs at the moment, so not too big of a surprise to see that battle resolve itself in the way that it did. But these two still haven't resolved their battle. Brakshock and Jordan back to battling once more. I would have thought that Siebel going through might have helped Jordan, really, but it hasn't. He's kind of just back to square one here.
Yeah, he's still got to give it a bit of a go, but he might just sit behind a little bit, save a touch of fuel, even though it's not really required. Obviously, we don't refuel in the 2022 Formula Sim Racing World Championship, but we'll have to wait and see what Dennis Jordan will do. Oh, pulling... no, okay, I thought he was going to pull over to the left and allow Dennis Jordan to pass. No, that was just a very sudden, immediate and very proactive, very, very proactive defensive move there to say, look, you can go around the outside, that's fine, but I'm going to hold the inside line and make sure that I've got that one.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit weird because there was no need to defend there, really. No. Jordan wasn't going to make a move there. He was too far behind, but now he certainly is close enough, almost solely because of the defending there. So here we go into Stowe. You can be sure there's going to be at least an attempt here. It's going to be quite hard to stay close, but the dirty air, not too much of a factor in these cars, thankfully. A bit less of a factor, and so he may be able to make a move into Stowe as Noah Roivers kicks off our second round of pit stops there for NetRex.
Yeah, 14 laps into the stint, a lap shy of the halfway distance, and still potentially aiming now for 4 stints in the race, so a 3-stop strategy. See if Dennis Jordan can make a move soon. Thought he might have decided to come down pit lane early just to try and jump some of this crew. There's Noah Roivers out of pit lane, and what traffic does he have to deal with this time? Slightly less than, and it's just one of the big bosses of him, so I'm sure that won't be a particularly difficult move, as Carlos Martin will sit just ahead, but I doubt this one's going to last very long.
Yeah, I doubt it's going to make too much difference either way, even if this is difficult or not, because Spork did have a 10-second lead, and so Roivers is still going to have quite a hard time getting anywhere near our race leader at the moment. 28 laps to go as we just complete this one, so 2 14-lap stints on the soft tyres will get him to the end, because he just did very nearly a 14-lap stint. I'd imagine he will rather do that rather than go for the 4th stop. But then again, you never know. He's not going to beat Spork doing exactly the same thing as the leader, so he might try something different.
Nice little move there from Roivers down the inside of Carlos Martin. So now 5th place for the Netrex P1 Sim Grand Prix driver, and a solid 6 seconds up the road is Laurent Kiersmakers to go and grab 4th. And then obviously, like you say, eyeing up the gap more so to Colin Spork. I don't think that's necessarily the issue today. It's more so keeping Sandar Callas at bay, because I don't know about you, Colin Spork has checked out of this party as he fancies another win to add to his World Championship resume. He seems fairly unstoppable at the moment, and it's almost at that point where the only driver that can beat Colin Spork right now is Colin Spork.
Yeah, that is pretty much the case, and it was the case at Imola. After a certain point, he was under pressure for the first half of the race maybe, but as the laps started to tick by, he just got further and further away from the rest of the field. And it's going well at the moment for him. He's got 13 seconds of a lead. He's, as you say, he can only beat himself at this stage. Roivers is going to do very well to get anywhere near him in this race, because the gaps are so large that even those doing an alternate strategy will struggle to get near him in this race.
That's why I kind of like, some people are kind of against a race with a lot of tyre wear. Laurent Kiersmakers and Dennis Jordan going side by side, of course. Fresher tyres for Kiersmakers in that position is made up now up to 7th for Edge eSports. I don't mind a race with some pretty aggressive tyres. This is kind of like that sort of, maybe it's a little bit too aggressive, but I'm okay with the idea of that middle ground between like a 2 and a 3 stop, where the tyres are quite aggressive. You can kind of go one way or the other, but you get that sort of dynamic of not really knowing what's going on, because people are pitting kind of all the time, and people are like, oh, yeah, but you don't get that much on-track racing, which is complete rubbish, because we've actually seen a fair amount of overtakes on the race circuit today. You
probably get more, to be honest, because there's people out of position all the time. So I would agree that a race like this is arguably better. But yeah, Spork is certainly enjoying himself at the moment. Soft tyres once more. He's even going to come out in the lead. This is what I mean about people not being able to really do anything, even on strategies, to get near him. He's retaining his lead there, only just to Sander Callas, but it's enough. And even though this gap has come down, Roivers has had 2 or 3 laps on his own there to try and get an undercut, but he's still 7.5 seconds away.
Yeah, it was a tight gap there between Sander Callas, who I think might be attacking for the race. They're probably a little bit too far off courtesy of the drive that fresh tyres would give Colin Spork for the race lead. So 1 second will separate them as they head into the braking zone of Brooklands and go through Luffield. As we look back in the pack, Dennis Jordan out of the pit lane, soft tyres, fresh set of soft tyres on his car. I'm going to say this pretty much with a guarantee that he is not going to be in joint lead of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, departing the British Grand Prix, but obviously a season is not over after 3 rounds, and so there is plenty of races to go. And by the way, I did say 3, and that is correct, because obviously we are on round 4 of the World Championship, but we've only had 3 races with this one after not being able to race last round out in Japan, as Carlos Martin's close to Luca D'Amelio.
Yeah, he is very close at the minute, and on those soft tyres he should be able to make his move into Maggots and Beckett's. Will be a brave one, but he's not going to. He'll wait through here and then get the good run through Chapel and a nice run down onto Stowe Corner. He's actually getting closed in on by Scrovron and Rainey because of this fight now, so this could turn interesting, but Martin is going to try and get through as quickly as possible. We've seen how quick D'Amelio is in a straight line, and it's still ringing true, although he can do absolutely nothing when it comes to Stowe Corner there, because the lack of downforce on that car is starting to tell, really.
Well, the lower downforce you've got, obviously, the more you're actually going to wear the tyres, because you're scrubbing them constantly. You're asking the tyres to do a lot more of the grip than the tyres themselves. You're asking tyres to do a lot more of the work rather than the aero. I'll get that one right. When you've got quite a lot of downforce, as much as you're pushing the tyres into the ground, you're kind of pushing the car through the corner with that, as Adam Rainey gets to the inside of Scovron. Up inside now, the top 10, a little bit of a tight squeeze going through the loop, but the drive off around the outside and going through Aintree was actually not too difficult. Might get Luca D'Amelio here down into Brooklands, but the straight line speed, you're absolutely right, D'Amelio is too fast in a straight line for Rainey to do it there. Might take the drive off of Luffield. If not, he might do the same move that he did a bit earlier on and wait all the way until the hangar straight. I think that might be a bit too long down the road though.
Yeah, he'd rather not wait that long. Oh dear, he tried to get his nose down the inside there, but couldn't quite do it. soon enough. He's looking every which way around the inside. Needs to be careful here because D'Amelio's not very quick through Kopp's corner, especially. These new tyres and the lack of downforce for D'Amelio is creating a big speed difference between the two of them. Look at this, through Magnus and Beckett's. D'Amelio is, oh my goodness, defending so hard at the minute, and Rainey almost can't go anywhere. Scrovron's going to be loving this. We could well see 3 wide in a second, but the straight line speed now for the leading car.
Yeah, but with a DRS, with a superior grip, surely Rainey's going to get this one done. Looks to the inside. D'Amelio hangs on, though. Might drift off of the apex at Stowe just a little bit. Still, Rainey not able to get past D'Amelio. Back to the inside, going through the club chicane. Still, no pass. Great little bit of defence there from D'Amelio as we ride on board with Damien Scovron just behind Rainey. Where is this move going to come? It's got to really happen down into Village because Rainey's losing out way too much time here. Needs to be brave, needs to commit on those brakes to the outside. No way to get to the inside. D'Amelio still hanging on all the way around the outside. Adam Rainey, superb move down into Village. Gets the inside for the loop and bang out of the corner with DRS as well. Rainey up into 9th.
Yeah, that was a good move, and he's straight up into 9th position there. He's going around the outside through turn 3 for the inside for 4. Classic move, really. And yeah, there was nothing that D'Amelio could do to respond. There is quite a train now with Braxock and Jordan now involved as well. So this is only going to get more feisty as we continue on. It's going to have to be something that special, though, from Scrovron or similar if he wants to get through. Braxock might well just try and make a move right here, right now. We'll see, though. It's probably going to all happen down into Stowe and the chicane afterwards.
And like you say, it's timing those moves right. There's a lot of good overtaking opportunities around here, but it's making sure you're not open yourself for the next one or to the next car or to everything else around you. See where Dennis Jordan can find his way past. The weaving happens. Janis Braxock has Scovron to worry about, all of them with the DRS open, and Braxock 11th spot is his. See what Dennis Jordan can do. Might well get to the insiders. Parting for pit lane is D'Amelio. A bit of a dicey little scrap here, and Dennis Jordan might be a bit desperate to clear these guys pretty sharpish.
He certainly is, and he'll want to get through as quickly as possible. But it's going to be difficult now. They're all on soft tyres, all similar pace, but of course Jordan is out of position, so you would expect him to be able to be a little bit better here than Scrovron, who has struggled a little bit to get going in the 2022 season. He had a fantastic Indy Pro campaign, which saw him 6th place in the standings after, well, I certainly hadn't heard of him beforehand, and he did a really good job against some very big names, but he's at the moment just outside the top 10 and getting overtaken by Dennis Jordan into Brooklands by the look of things.
Yeah, let's see. Let's say Dennis Jordan making up that spot, but we need to see whether that gap's going to come down too much to Janis Braxock, who obviously on the same sort of level of tyres. I think that gap's going to come down too much. That might be a bit of a problem. If it doesn't come down, I'm not necessarily sure if Dennis Jordan's... I'm pretty sure he's going to finish inside the top 10 today, but I just don't think he's going to finish that high inside the top 10. As Sander Callis gets to the inside of Alex Siebel into Stowe corner. Nice little move there, but not really thought from Siebel, who's running a very differing strategy to everyone else, rolling around on potentially a 2-stop strategy. Is Alex Siebel whilst everyone goes for a 3 or a 4?
Yeah, he'll be in lap 36, I'd imagine, for his final pit stop. He's still got 5 laps to go on those tyres that look awful, if I'm honest. They look awful. So he's going to be really struggling. I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of Martin and Panzer are hounding him in a few laps' time. I know they're a long way back at the moment, but those tyres don't look good. So he's going to be dropping back a fair amount. I'll tell you who's stealthily got himself into podium contention here is Mitchy Hoyer somehow. Laurent Kiersmakers was very near him for most of the first half of this race, but all of a sudden there is a 7 or 8 second gap between them, and Hoyer doesn't look like he's looking over his shoulder at all. In fact, he's looking forward and maybe looking at grabbing his 2nd place away from Noah Roybers at the moment.
It's kind of at that point though where we know what Mitchy Hoyer's like in races like this. I'll remember back to the 2021 German Grand Prix where he was sat in 3rd for most of it, and he was waiting, and he was waiting, and he was waiting, and then suddenly he's leading. Oh, and he's won. His 3rd race in a row. Timing is everything in races like this, and Mitchy Hoyer has that timing down. I'm not saying that he's going to win this race. I think he's way too far off to be in position to win the race, but still, 3rd spot might well be good enough. A bit of a connection thing there down into Chapel, but Sandra Callis is up into 4th position, gets to the inside of Laurent Keersmakers, but Keersmakers isn't going to make that one very easy at all. He's still got the inside for the final chicane. Let's see if Sandra Callis can make it stick around the outside. Lovely move from Ground Effect. Still side by side coming around the final corner, and Keersmakers somehow is going to be able to hang on. I think they're going to be side by side to Abby.
This is very polite indeed, and eventually Keersmakers gives up because this is just costing everybody too much time, but very respectful racing between the two of them. Not a scrape on either of those cars. They didn't even push each other, basically. They gave each other so much racing room. It was very respectful indeed, very good to see. But yeah, Callis in the end going through. I think it was sensible from Keersmakers to let him have that place. Because yeah, they were losing a lot of time, leaving so much space. Look at the space there is on the left-hand side there.
That's what we like to see, a good bit of respect between two drivers, actually showing each other racing room and stuff. That was a brilliant display. It takes two to tango, but that was brilliantly done. A little bit of a loss of grip there from Sandra Callis, rolling around the final corner. Space given at this point. Laurent Keersmakers thinks, yeah, you've done enough. Off you go, son. And Callis up into 4th spot. Lovely bit of racing. Good bit for the broadcast as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He gave up despite being ahead into the corner. By the way, he could have very well held on and gave him a good run for his money through the first few corners there. But he decided not to, and I think sensibly so as well. As we get a look at for the first time in a good while at Colin Spork. He's been all out on his own. Looks like he's on his way, quite possibly, to his 2nd World Championship victory. Still got 20 laps to do, so can't give him the win just yet. Can't hand him the trophy, but he certainly does have one hand on it.
Like I say, in control here at Silverstone, running around. Like I said, they were the Netrex group, as he weaves, just to basically try and say to Pignataro in the Arnage competition card that I'm coming, mate. If you could just stick to one side when I get there, that'd be pretty nice. But yeah, the Netrex team, there we go, there is the switch. They were a little bit disappointed after the Suzuka round because, see, I've said it again. It's fine, we're all with that. They were the most disappointed because they were the ones that missed out on the great pace they had as Luca D'Amelio gets past Tom Oldenmenger. That they said that they had the pace that they were confident they were going to win with the pace they had. And they had that basically robbed from them, and now other teams can kind of see where their pace was at.
I mean, it's difficult to say whether they would have won or not. We're not. You can't see into the future.
I'm just saying what the team was saying.
I know. I'm not blaming you, but yeah, it's difficult to say. It's difficult for anybody to know really quite what would have happened. As we're going side by side through Cops again, Adam Rainey and Robin Panzer in a very, very cutthroat battle here. Coming into Magnussen Beckett, they're still side by side. Panzer has to give up eventually, and Braxtock takes the opportunity. Shoves it down the inside and just about gets the pace. Dennis Jordan might be able to capitalise on all this.
That was aggressive from Janis Braxtock to get down the inside there. I was expecting tears and carnage from that one. Janis Braxtock does get past the Robin Panzer, the burst car, and now Dennis Jordan straight down the inside into chicane. This is going to have a little bit of side-by-side. Actually, no, Panzer gets straight out of the way. Dennis Jordan does get himself up inside of the top 10. That was, like I say, pretty aggressive from Janis Braxtock as they start closing down on Adam Rainey. I know the last lap times aren't too much to read into, but it was a 32.3 from Adam Rainey, a 32.5 from Janis Braxtock, obviously with a bit of side-by-side there, and the 31.6 from Dennis Jordan, who's really charging up to the back of the Hungarian driver that sat in 9th.
Yeah, he is at the moment charging up to the back of everybody, and today really is about damage limitation for Dennis Jordan. If he wants to really have a go at this World Championship, we know that the rival he is level on points with coming into today, Colin Sport, is going to be taking the full 30 points. How many of those points can Dennis Jordan accumulate, though? That's the question. He's got 11 at the minute. Every point up to the top 5 will be every position will be a point up to the top 5. So if he can get a few more here, then he'll get a few more points. But he will be losing at least 10 today. I would imagine he'll have to get a podium to stop that.
Yeah, the thing is, like I say, it is just damage limitation. It's such a short championship. Things can go wrong very, very quickly with just 10 races. We just don't know where things are going to go in 2022. So just get on with it. Like, the issues at Turn 1, Dennis Jordan, he's a pretty cool customer when it comes to it, pretty calm and collected. And I think at that issue at Turn 1, you need to just take a deep breath and be like, look, That's happened now. There is nothing you could do about it now. Just turn around and get on with it. Just eyes forward. They're coming up to Jan Grankvist, is Michi Hoyer, by the way, to lap, but he's also closing in on Noah Roivers. 3/10 on the last lap. I know it doesn't sound like much, but those add up fairly quickly, although has lost a 10th in the first sector, potentially picking up on just a little bit of dirty air and more so the distraction of the Super Venturi ahead. Bit of a shame as well for Jan Grankvist, because we might have seen some good things from him after a good qualifying.
Yeah, we did see a very good qualifying, but unfortunately it put him right in the danger zone. And that chain reaction happened all on the left-hand side of the road through turn 1. He got caught up in everybody scrambling to get to the right-hand side, which is a real shame for him, because he is obviously now down in 19th position, and who knows what he could have done today with a much cleaner run at things, which he arguably deserves. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but just the way things go on occasion. It doesn't always go to plan, and it certainly hasn't for him today. We'll see how he gets on throughout the rest of the season. Of course, there's still 7 rounds to go indeed. But yeah, it's not his day today.
No, but when it isn't your day, sometimes you still need to get out there and keep doing laps and learning. I know there's not too much to learn in a race like this. Obviously, typically in motorsport, you'd see drivers going out even after that just to go and get some data or whatever. Whereas in sim racing, where you've done so many laps of practice, I know teams that have done many full race simulations, which I respect them for and I commend them, because I couldn't think of anything more boring than doing full race simulations. But apparently listening, I was just going to say, oh no, apparently listening to me, so fair enough. Thanks Felix, our broadcast director here, is on the same sort of wavelength as a full race run of practice, but each to their own, shall we say. I normally do about 5 laps and then I bin it in a walk, because I don't have the attention span.
No, I do like the idea of practice always, because it feels productive and whatever. But it is quite boring. That was quite a that was quite rude.
Harsh.
Obviously, you didn't hear that at home, but Felix just says is listening to you for 2 hours would be more boring than race runs. So there you go. Take Lewis won't be returning.
I love how I love the Formula Sim Racing Championships. We do have a bit of fun, it's fine. Of course, someone who's having a lot of fun this afternoon is Colin Spork, leading by a fair amount over Noah Roivers, Michi Hoyer, Sander Callis and Laurent Kiersnakers back to the battle now for 8th spot, which sees Rainey Blackshock and Dennis Jordan have a little 3-way fight. Again, I don't think if there was drivers that Adam Rainey would expect to battle with on this Sunday evening, I don't think Blackshock or Dennis Jordan would have been on that list.
No, probably not. But if you'd have told him at the start of the day that he would be battling with them, he would have thought, maybe I'm battling for a podium here, but unfortunately not. It's only 8th place at the moment. Still a respectable top 10 for all 3 of these, which you can't look down on, certainly. But I think Braxtock and Jordan will be overhauling Rainey in the final 15 laps of this race. I'd be surprised if not anyway. And as I said earlier, both of these guys, especially Jordan, needs to get as many points as possible from today, and that's exactly what he's going to try and do with maybe a move on Braxtock here before Braxtock can get one done on Rainey here. Surely both moves are coming in soon, or at least an attempt at a move is coming very soon. Yeah,
we've just got to keep an eye. Or again, proactive defence, kind of what we saw from Janis Braxtock, maybe a little bit too early, just based on the fact of how far behind the Hungarian was. It kind of drove him in a little bit too deep with Adam Rainey, focusing too much on his mirrors. At this point, you need to be having your eyes on the road. What's the fastest way around a racetrack? The racing line. Stick to it sometimes. Don't drive on your mirrors too much. When there is a car there, I love the proactive defence. I love getting after it straight away, as we saw from Braxton, we saw from Rainey there. But right now, not really the thing you need to do. Someone who does need to look at his mirrors, though, is Janis Braxton, because Dennis Jordan was right there and maybe thought about something if the door was open.
Yeah, unfortunately the door wasn't open and there wasn't a big enough gap for him there, just about. Braxton's got a decent run out of Chapel there as well, so Jordan's going to have a hard time getting down the inside at Stowe, or indeed getting around the outside here. He closes now, but he's not even alongside as they get into the braking zone, so it's going to be another lap behind. We are getting into the region, though, of being able to pit, and Braxton does exactly that. Siebel is in as well. So the final pit stops are upon us right now. Siebel obviously on his 2-stop, Braxtock on his 3-stop, as pretty much everybody else is today. Siebel now leaves the pit lane, and looks like he will be in contention, maybe for a top 5, maybe 6th place for Siebel today.
Yeah, which I think might be a little bit less than they were expecting, but sometimes you've got to take what you can get. Unfortunately for his teammate, I think even a top 10 is really the goal right now, as he'll battle it out with Adam Rainey. He'll get the DRS. This should be a pretty easy move. We see Rainey defend quite early here. Already pulls over to the left-hand side. That's not to let Dennis Jordan pass, but the superior straight line speed with DRS basically gives that a non-issue. And Dennis Jordan has the position very clearly on the braking zone of Brooklyn. So 7th position for him at the moment. The final pit stops looming in the distance.
Yeah, they are, well, no longer looming, really. They're looming quite large in the minds of everybody right now, really, because it's very much that time again. If you are stuck behind somebody, as Braxuk was there, maybe worth coming in. And he's even gone for the mediums here as Braxuk, which is a bit of a surprise, but clearly thinks that they are a faster route to the finish than going on at one more set of soft tyres. Richie Hoyer really getting on with these soft tyres as well, as he brings this gap down to below 2 seconds to Noah Roy. There's a little bit of traffic involved here in the form of Roberto Pinataro. But still, Hoyer's been slowly reeling Roybers in throughout this race.
Yeah, 6 tenths of a second on the lap they've just completed. It was a 31.822 from Noah Roybers and a 31.268 from Michi Hoyer, as the gap, like you say, is coming down. Obviously, as they're burning off fuel, typically to how we had it in the 2021 season, where they could refuel and stuff. They're not allowed to refuel this season, which means that the later on we get in the race, obviously the faster the times get, especially when they go on to fresh tyres, which is why we're going to see a slew of personal best and fastest laps. Janis Brakshock being one of those, setting great lap times, set a purple second sector over the previous lap. Didn't go too well in the third sector because he had a bit of traffic in the form of Luca D'Amelio directly ahead, and comes out still ahead of Dennis Jordan and Adam Rainey, who depart the pit lane behind, still on for a top 10 finish potentially.
Well, how did Jordan jump Rainey there? Because I don't think he overtook him on the racetrack. So there must have been a jumping in the pit stop there. Brakshock's undercut obviously has got him the positions over Jordan and Rainey, but yeah, so possibly a bit of a pit stop change or change in the pit lane possibly for those two.
Yeah, it might have just been a bit of a blunder. It's very easy to overdo your pit box. Of course, you're attacking at 100 kilometres an hour and you're trying to come to a stop. It's not easy. It really isn't. Obviously, the slower you go, the less grip you have, the less downforce you have pushing the car onto the track, which means the harder you have to kind of understand what's happened with the brake pedal. I think maybe Rainey just overcooked it. Don't know, but either way, you're absolutely right. Dennis Jordan has overturned that position and grabbed it. They might have been side by side, and Rainey had to lift out of it as Noah Roybers departs the pit lane from his final stop. Michi Hoyer and Carlos Martin also into the pit lane. Back to this battle with Luca D'Amelio defending from Janis Brakshock straight to the inside. Oof, that was a lovely move. Absolutely sent it down the inside of Stowe. That was pretty well telegraphed, to be honest. Lovely work.
Yeah, it was very nice indeed, but it's very important for Jordan that he follows the Hungarian through now on D'Amelio, of course, because he can't let his rival get too far away now. At this point through turn 1, he's got to have a go down here at 3, whether that's inside or outside. He's going to. Looks to the inside line, maybe looks to the outside, but D'Amelio switching lines through the braking zone. Now Jordan's going to go to the inside at turn 4. Nice move. He blocks D'Amelio, can't respond, and now even Adam Rainey is going to try and get through here as well.
Yeah, he'll have DRS as well. Obviously, all of them have DRS. The defensive line being pulled. We know that D'Amelio's pretty fast in a straight line. Rainey will feel that he needed to go for it, kind of half committed and then backed out of it. Now going around the outside of Luffield, will have the superior grip on the Italian. Rolls it in way too deep though, but does have the drive off the corner. It kicks it out for the Netrex Grand Prix car. Will have the outside for Cops in a few moments' time. Good drive, but the straight line speed of D'Amelio is just too much for Rainey to do anything about right now. Now going for the undercut, but that's not going to work. He's got to wait for the hanger straight.
Well, yeah, he has, and this the damage may already be done here. Oh, no! Contact made between the two of them. Rainey's off, and I'm afraid he really has lost touch with Brakshock and Jordan now. Even D'Amelio has gained a bit of time on him there. That's what happens when you're just that little bit too close to the car in front coming through here. Even Pantar is involved now, so I'm afraid that is the hopes of any better placing for Rainey over, and it's going to be a top 10 for him at least, but nothing more than that, I don't think.
Yeah, the only person that can be blamed in that is Adam Rainey, just overdoing it, sort of not really anticipating the lower grip of the car ahead. Needed to back out of it a little bit more, give himself a bit more room to work into rolling through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, as he did earlier on some of those moves. Yeah, that one was suboptimal for sure. But either way, D'Amelio has gone the way of pit lane. It has promoted Rainey, Panzar, Skovroy on that lot, all up an extra position. Sandar Callas then runs around in second spot. Michi Hoyer is closing in on Noah Roivers for the final spot on the podium, at least for now, as Dennis Jordan gets past Janis Brackshock and up into 8th position.
Yeah, he had to do that because the soft tyres are obviously going to be a bit quicker now, but are they going to be quicker later on? Is Brackshock going to be able to stay close enough? Is he going to be able to bring this gap back a little bit later on? And is he going to have the tyre life left to get through on Dennis Jordan by the end? Is Jordan even going to be looking forward here and thinking, I could have Carlos Martin here 6 or 7 seconds up the road? I think it is a stretch with only 10 laps to go, or 11 actually at the line. But you never know. He might well just about be able to get there. We'll wait and see as Sander Callas makes his final stop.
Yeah, so that'll promote then Roivers and Michi Hoyer back up onto both spots of the podium that remain. Again, a shout out to Carlos Martin, still going very strong with 11 laps left to go in the British Grand Prix, knowing the health issues that he's been going through in the recent past. To be honest, I wouldn't say it's his best drive in the World Championship. We've seen some very good drives from Carlos Martin in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship over the last, to be honest, six years. I think it's about 6 years since he joined the World Championship, and on and off has been longer. Has it really been longer?
It's been. He made his debut in 2013. So.
Was it 13? Oh,
13. Yeah. So there you are. 9 years.
I know because Carlos Martin was racing in what was called the World Trophy. I think it was World Trophy or World Series back then, before it was rebranded to whatever they were rebranded to, and then of course Academy and Pro. It was called Ace at one point. It was very confusing, but either way, had a long career either way in FSR. Probably not his best drive, but a great one anyway, considering the issues that he's had. Looking for a personal best of the season so far.
Yeah, absolutely. He's interestingly only ever been on the podium once as well in all of those 9 years, which is somewhat remarkable. So yeah, he's been around a while and knows what he's doing, certainly. But this battle for second is just beginning to brew, really. 10 laps to go, and I have almost no doubt that Hoyer's going to be able to get through here. Roivers is going to obviously do his best to keep him behind, but I don't think there's going to be anything stopping Hoyer here from getting into that second position. And they both dearly need it, really. If they're really thinking about a championship charge, then they do really need to start picking up these podiums, which they are, of course, both managing today, or they're on course to do so anyway.
Yeah, of course, a retirement for Noah Roivers in the first race of the season. A no-show for Michi Hoyer in the second race at Malaysia. Of course, that was because he had COVID, so kind of couldn't come along. I mean, he could have raced. I just don't think he would have done very well, and it wouldn't have been a pleasurable experience for Michi Hoyer, and anyone that was around him wasn't in the right mindset, and I think was made the right call to step aside. Nevin Rochek took over the car and got a 7th place finish, but Michi Hoyer didn't have a great opening to the season at San Marino, so you're absolutely right. If there are any aspirations for these two to go on and win the Formula Sim Racing World Championship of 2022, that second place is going to be very, very important. So I don't think this is going to be... I mean, you're saying that I think Michi Hoyer's got the pace. I do not think this is going to be an easy move. I think this is going to be a hard fight that's going to take them the next, nine laps and a couple of corners to sort out as we head into the final moments of the British Grand Prix.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Hoyer certainly has the pace, but does he have the ability to get through? It's not even the ability, is it? But it's the racecraft or whatever. All of those things adding up to make sure you can try and get through, or at least have a go, which is what Hoyer's doing right now. The points are very valuable up here, as you say. The 4-point difference between these two in terms of what they're going to score here. If they were outside the top 5, you need to gain 4 places to do that, never mind just the one that we've got here. So it is very important, and these points are going to add up. But Hoyer is not going to have it easy. Roivers all the way to the left-hand side, right to the white line, trying to break the slipstream there, showing his intent very early on with some proactive defending. Of course, he moved back to the racing line in time, but that was more symbolic rather than actually physically defending. He was kind of showing to Hoyer that you're not going to pass very easily here, as if he didn't realise already.
Yeah, I mean, I think he already knew that a fair while ago when he was closing, 3-4 tenths a lap. He was probably thinking, right, this is going to be a difficult move, and it's probably going to be late on. The problem is with it being late on, is when it's sort of in that early stage of the race or halfway through the race, drivers are kind of thinking, maybe I actually can't hang on for 26 laps around here. Maybe I can't do that. Whereas when you're attacking them with sort of 6-7 laps to go, they think, yeah, I can do this for 6 or 7 laps. I can keep you at bay for this distance. It's each corner that's ticked off is all of the mentality, despite it essentially being a very similar task, just done over a longer period of time. It's still the same level of difficulty and the same level of perfection that's required. Mentality is critical in this scenario, and no Rovers knows how to defend from a drive behind. He's proven that, of course, when winning championships and stuff in the past. I think for Hoyer, every corner is an opportunity that he needs to take some form of advantage of, even if it's just trying to pull Noah Rovers off of the racing line, and maybe even using some of that lap traffic to his advantage as well, as Jan Grankvist is just on the horizon.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just... as we go side by side once more, Luca Di Melio defending once more from Scrovron right now. But yeah, you're right. Those two coming up on a lap car. Can't imagine that's going to... or they've got past him now, and they can't imagine it's going to make it too much of a difference. Now it's the free track between the two of them, and they'll be fighting over that throughout. Let's see what happened, though, between these two. Because, as I mentioned, Di Melio has been... fighting lots of people today, and this top speed has helped him out in certain situations, this being one of them. Does he give the room here? Well, just about. There we are. Scrovron backs out of it in the end on the outside line through Stowe Corner, and so Di Melio is indeed up to 12th ahead of the Burst eSport car.
Yeah, now whilst there was a DRS advantage in there, I think that was, it's just proof that car is an absolute bullet in a straight line. Got to be said as well, again, as much as anyone who has watched Formula Sim Racing World Championship race this year will know, we normally have push to pass in this. I've already brought this up a few times, but if you're just jumping in, there is no push to pass in effect here at Silverstone, courtesy of some issues a bit earlier on in the day. So we don't have push to pass, it's just the DRS that they're in use of throughout the running of the 52-lap race that we've had 46 laps obviously completed, so around 5 or 6 more left to go before we see that checkered flag on board with Ivan Leonov, who is jumping into the car and trying to take 14th position off Voldemang. I was going to say it was him taking over the car, but obviously now it's Ivanov taking over the next. So I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, it is all very confusing as Leonov gets down the inside there. Oldemanga will just be giving that position away almost. He's not done a bad job today, to be fair to him, though. Oldemanga up 6 places on the day after starting dead last. I have to say as well, as he gives it a little bit of a go, that Burst eSport, the Simplexity cars, I love the gold nose on those cars, I have to say. I think, I whisper it, but I think they actually look better than the other team's cars. But there we are.
We'll agree to disagree, mate. I think that... Okay. I like the look of it. I mean, I get the idea of the gold nose, but I think the
gold nose
black nose with the gold highlights.
No, the gold nose is
it's too lavish.
I don't mind that.
It's a bit of a surprise considering you're from the north of England.
Well, thank you. That is nice. But
had to bring it up on broadcast at some point.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, about 20 million people in the UK who live above what you consider the north. They're fuming, but never mind. Anyway. Yeah, it's better. It's better. I'm arguing with you on that. It's better.
Well, all right then. We'll discuss this one post broadcast. There's not too long to go left in the in this race at Silverstone, so we'll have a bit of a discussion later on. But either way, there is no disagreements between which one is going faster around this racetrack at the moment, and it is the one with the black nose, piloted by Michi Hoyer. He's trying to go and grab second position and get a runners-up spot on another podium to add to his load in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. He's had a good few. They're not going to come under pressure too much from Sandberg Callis. He's only closing in by about half a second a lap. Yeah,
they're really not coming under pressure at all from Callis. Wasn't expecting them to, but they're not really at this stage. Sport not coming under pressure for anybody either. By the way, it would be Michi Hoyer's 19th podium if you can get up there today. Noah Royals, interestingly, has never had one in the World Championship, so this could be a first. Not a big surprise because he's a pro champion after all, but in the World Championship, never been there.
Yeah, it's his full-time debut, of course, in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship this year for Noah Roivers. And to be honest, he would have already had a podium had the issues not happened back in Imola. So, it is what it is. 5 laps left to go in Silverstone, and to be honest, Colin Falk probably thinks he's jumped onto a practice session, really, because he's not seen anyone for a while, with the exception of the odd bit of lap traffic. Completely dominant this afternoon.
Yeah, he has absolutely been dominant today. Once again, this is a similar sort of way in which he won Imola, but it was closer back then, to be honest. This is a much more dominant win even than that race to kick off our season. This is really a marker being laid down. I've constantly, throughout the start of this season, posed question marks over his consistency over a season's length. Can he do this for an entire year? But he's answering more and more of those questions with a resounding yes at this stage, and he really is playing a marker down for the World Championship here today. The likes of Jordan, Siebel, Vosik are not even here. Roivers all losing points hand over fist to him here today. And he's going to be forced to be reckoned with throughout this season. There's no doubt about that. If there was any doubt in anybody's mind after the first 2 rounds about that, and there certainly was in mine after the performance at Malaysia, he has put them to bed somewhat here today.
Well, it's why Netrex were desperate to pick him up after some of his exploits for the likes of Team Redline and such, and some of the talent that he's shown, of course, Edge eSports as well. Shown so much speed in open wheels and such, at least here on rF2, and does know how to race as well on other platforms, but at least here goes very, very strong. And we've seen that time and time again from Colin Spork, and they wanted to pick him up. They wanted, of course, with the partnership of Unicorns of Love, throw him into that team who have plenty of young drivers that show such incredible speed. And right now we're seeing exactly that from Colin Spork. But our focus must remain on the battle for second. I mean, you said that move was coming from Michi Hoyer. Noah Roivers has completely responded on the timesheets and is able to keep that gap right at bay, leaving it around that 1 second point. So not even enough for DRS for Michi Hoyer.
Yeah, he's weathered the storm here, the early storm that Hoyer was raining down upon him, and now he's starting to kick on as well, just a little bit, by extending that gap to over a second. This time last lap into Luffield, to notice Hoyer having a really big slide. He was very far out wide to the left-hand side. It wasn't kind of gravel territory, but it was certainly not ideal, and it was a little bit wide, and obviously he can only inch up to the back of that Roivers car at the moment now, really. The edge had taken off those tyres just a little bit, not quite looking as quick as he was about 5 laps ago, and so this is becoming a lot more difficult for Hoyer. He might have to settle for third by the looks of things. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but then again, he's 4 points just up the road there, and you can't gain them very easily further down the order. So as I said earlier, he will be disappointed to miss out on second if indeed he does, but there might not be an awful lot he can do about this now. There's only 3 laps to go.
Well, not that it matters when it comes to point scores, because fastest lap doesn't yield a point. But no more fastest lap from Colin Spork. He's been dethroned in that one, as Jake Dennehan has set the fastest lap of the race by 15 thousandths of a second over Colin Spork. Obviously a recent pit stop from Dennehan, who runs in the 19th and final position here at Silverstone, so a bit further down the order. Now, this is a battle for position with Alex Siebel on much older tyres, of course, going for a 2-stop strategy. Carlos Martin has been closing in rapidly, desperate to try and steal that 6th position back that he's been running in most of the afternoon.
Yeah, he'll be looking to get through here and kind of cap off a great day for Unicorns of Love, of course, leading this race with Spork, and possibly a 6th place with Martin. Will be very interesting and important in an early constructors battle that is developing between Red Bull and Unicorns of Love at the moment. There's only 22 points between them heading into today, and if Martin can get through here, then obviously Red Bull will be losing points to both Unicorns of Love cars with both of their cars. So that could become an early little story to watch out for throughout the rest of the season. Siebel is going to want to hang on here for as much as possible for this 6th place, of course. He's worked quite hard for this one. I think he has realised that this 2-stop strategy maybe wasn't the best one, but because he could have been up right near Hoyer, really. He was running with Hoyer earlier on. He could have been battling for a podium at this point, but instead he decided to go for the 2-stop. Sometimes you look like a genius going for the alternate strategy, sometimes you don't. Unfortunately, this is one of those occasions where
Carlos Martin, no! For the final moments of the race, out of it, surely. That is tragic. I was saying about the curbs on the exit or through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel, and that is an easy mistake after such a good drive all day. Carlos Martin will bring it back into the pit lane, completely broken, took way too much of the curb through Chapel, but he was on for that move, and Alex Siebel Well, one of the luckiest men on circuit.
Yeah, he was Martin was just getting over that curve there, and you can see it just snaps away from him almost quicker than he can think here. He's only just about got the car around there, but it's already at a more than 45-degree angle. And there we go, into the wall with the front and the rear. And Carlos Martin outside the top 10. He was on course, if he got through on Siebel, to equal his best result for about a year. So it's going to be a very good result for Martin and, of course, Unicorns of Love, as I was just saying. But that curb, just a little bit of loss of traction through Chapel, and he loses it. I just wonder if he opened the DRS there a little bit early. Was he still going around the corner when he opened the DRS there? Because he was kind of off the curb when it started. So I do just wonder whether there was a little bit of an early opening of the DRS there, and he's slightly gone around.
Well, we'll take another look at it again, reluctantly from broadcast direction, but it's tough.
Happy.
We run the show here, so it's fine.
Yes.
As we'll see once again. Keep your eye then on the rear slot from Carlos Martin. I'm pretty sure the DRS is fairly early. Great camera angle to see this from as well. Yeah, it does open too early. You're absolutely right. Terrible broadcast camera angle there from Felix van Delft, but it's fine. You're absolutely right. Does open the DRS, and that is what costs him there. The DRS zones are pretty early for both here and on the Wellington Straight.
Yeah, they are very early indeed. I kind of like the fact that it's down to the driver to decide when it's safe to do so, because you kind of push it right to the edge. Unfortunately, Martin has found the limit there, and he's gone over the edge, of course, but and into the wall. But yeah. It's very early. Open the DRS slightly too early there through Chapel. Spins around, and I'm afraid he's cost himself quite a few points there. Cost his team, possibly more importantly, quite a few points there. But he'll be very disappointed with that as he runs down in 15th. At least he'll get to the end.
Yeah, my heart honestly goes out to him. That's a rough one, as further connection issues, I believe, go the way of Noah Roivers. But, actually, no, I'm not going to say it. Either way, yeah, Carlos Martin, big shame. His teammate, though, only has a couple more corners to go. Completely dominant today. Colin Sport coming down into the final chicane. Dominant is the only word you can use as he comes round the final corner to win his second race of the Formula SimRacing World Championship and confirm himself as a sole leader in the 2022 title race. Unicorns of Love on top here. Noah Roivers looks to come around the final corners. There's issues there for Michi Hoyer in the final moments, dropping a fair way off of Roivers. Roivers, though, first podium in his World Championship career, and I don't think it'll be the last as Michi Hoyer adds to his total.
Yeah, absolutely. Michi Hoyer's 19th, of course, as we spoke about a little bit earlier on, and Callas just about misses out. Another great drive from the ground effect driver, though. Spork, Roivers and Hoyer 1, 2 and 3. Very simple race for Spork, a little bit more complicated for the likes of Roivers and especially Hoyer. But a decent race nonetheless. The two Red Bulls, 1 and 2 last time out, 6 and 7 this time. Going to be disappointed with that.
Well, I think it's to be said from the pair of them. Wrong strategy from Alex Siebel, and that was obvious only halfway through the race when you've already kind of committed to it. Still managed to grab a 6th position, and the recovery drive from Dennis Jordan, same with Janis Brakshock, for those two to get 7th and 8th is brilliant. For the likes of Adam Rainey and Luke D'Amelio, top 10s, that is honestly very, very impressive. The first top 10 for Adam Rainey in the Formula SimRacing World Championship, a driver who wasn't necessarily sure if he should have been in the World Championship, but still there, proving why maybe he should have. Nice donuts as well on the exit of Brooklands from the likes of Colin Spork and I believe Janis Brakshock as well. Might be Pignataro.
Yeah, who knows? They're just
one of the Yamaha's cars.
Yeah, I think it might be Pignataro actually, who's also been a bit bored after getting involved in an incident there throughout the early part of the race. He was involved in that lap 1 incident, turn 1 incident indeed, that kind of shaped this race somewhat as well. In terms of incidents, certainly did for the likes of Brakshock and Jordan. It did change it a little bit, but another interesting race. I'm sure we'll have another one in a couple of weeks' time when we embark on round 5.
Wow, yeah, honestly, that's kind of what we expect from the World Championship. We had some great races today, courtesy of the tyre strategy being a bit all over the place, being a bit mad this afternoon over the 52-lap race. It's been a brilliant one, and one to be honest, completely dominated by Colin Spork. Leading them across the line for Unicorns of Love. Noah Roivers in second position with Mitchie Hoyer in third. We'll be catching up with those in a few moments' time. Sander Callis and Laurent Keersmakers ran out top 5. Great drive from Keersmakers for that 5th spot. The return up the order from Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan, who take 6th and 7th for Oracle Red Bull Racing eSports, with Janis Brakshock and Adam Rainey and Luca D'Amelio inside the top 10 for the first time this season. Behind that, in 11th spot, would be Robin Panzar, having a decent drive, flying under the radar, and Damian Skovron directly behind, the sister teammate in the Burst eSports car, Ivan Leonov in 13th. Carlos Martin drops down the order of final moments, but does manage to get back up into 14th spot, but really was looking at a very solid top 10 this afternoon, with Tom Oldenmenger behind that. Jukka-Pekka Lalu finishing in 16th position. The last car on the lead lap of the race is Jan Grankvist and Roberto Pinataro, and Jake Dennehan all finished a lap down. I'm pretty sure that Jake Dennehan also finished the race with the fastest lap as well. Retirement behind, of course, Viktor Ivanov and Zoltz Schuch down the order. But either way, we'll catch up with our race winner, who is here alongside Colin Spork. You didn't see anyone at all really this afternoon after the first couple of laps. That was about as dominant as it gets. How does that feel after the issues and sort of disappointment back in Japan?
I mean, of course, it's really nice to win with quite a margin. First stint was just trying to not lose too much time to Sander, who was doing a good job in the first stint. And then I was able to overtake him pretty comfortably on the mediums, which I was quite surprised with. But on at that moment, I knew it was almost already in the bag. Just going as quick as possible after that. But yeah, I mean, it's after Suzuka, where I think, let's say pace-wise, looking at qualifying, it could have been the exact same. Well, not maybe exact same, but it was looking very good as well. And then to do it again here after the disappointment of the race getting postponed, it's really amazing.
You seem to gel well with this car. Obviously, you've raced it a little bit before. Are you still finding out bits and bobs as the rounds kind of continue?
Yeah, of course. Every weekend, I'm learning things about just the car and handling, but also setup wise, and of course with the great team of Netrax, and of course Unicorns. We're getting there very, very quickly, and we're working really hard to get as quick as possible. So we're able to put ourselves on the charts against the big boys from Red Bull and Burst.
Well, congratulations to you, Colin Spork, our race winner. We'll head over to Noah Roivers, second place. Finally, we actually get to speak to you from a podium finish. Of course, we missed out on that opportunity back in Imola, where with the chime in later on, of course, we did have a little bit of a chat with you, but it's a bit of on a sad note. This time, though, we see you in second place. That's got to feel a little bit sweeter after those issues back in San Marino.
Absolutely, it was a fun race. Unfortunately, 18 seconds down to Colin, so that's not something I want. But I had a good battle with Mitchie. Well, not really like a battle, but yeah, it was really close near the end of the race. So I had to push pretty hard there. So yeah, loads of fun.
How do you feel about obviously being somewhat seeming like a higher tyre wear circuit than we typically see? How does that kind of match with your driving style? With, going a bit more aggressive on strategy than others?
I'm having a lot more tyre wear than Colin, for instance. So I was not expecting to be up the pace on this track. I mean, in 2019, I qualified like 23rd in Academy on this track. In Pro, the year after, like 17th. And last year in Pro, I finished 12th here. So to finish second here today, that was something I wasn't expecting. And yeah, it really gives me confidence for the next few rounds.
Well, we'll have to wait and see where that takes you, obviously, in round 5 of the World Championship. Congratulations, Noah. We'll now head over to Mitchie Hoyer. Welcome back, for starters, to the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Of course, we didn't get to race back in Japan, but either way, it is good to see you back out on the racetrack. Good effort, though, to get back onto the podium after a pretty difficult day.
Yeah, I mean, the race could have been done literally within turn 1, so there was a contact between Siebel and someone else, and that car spun right in front of me. I had to hit the brakes hard, and I was so lucky not to rip up my front wing, and likewise lucky not to be run over in the back from someone else following behind, so that was interesting. And then, I gotta say, I have kind of slept a little bit in the first stint. I've played it easy on Alex. Like I know I had much more pace in the beginning, but when the guys ahead pulled away. I just realized too late that they might be on the 3-stop. And then I got past Alex, could pull a little bit of a gap, and then it was like I was down for a 2-stop too, but then we kind of split second decision in lap 13 to switch for a 3-stop, which eventually was the right call as I was gaining on Roivus and on Sander Keller. So yeah, it was a fun battle with Noah. Like I was closing in. I also had the chance to be quite close, but then yeah, somehow probably I overheated the tires in that one lap and then had a disadvantage, dropped out of DRS, never really had a chance to go back.
Well, kind of a double question in one then. Obviously, after missing Malaysia, first question is, are you feeling like you're back at 100% yet? And also number two to go with that, are you feeling confident that even after missing that, there might be still a chance for you to even challenge for the 2022 World Championship?
I feel like it's difficult to say 100%, but I have started to go back to the gym, and the results on the fitness level are looking all right. So I have still some issues in the nose area. So one nose is completely stuffed up for like weeks now, which is, like you hear it in the voice a bit. That is a bit of a struggle, but that's more like an inconvenience rather than taking away any performance from the body, thankfully. Speaking about the championship, I mean, considering it's just a 10-round series, I haven't been at speeds in Japan, so that red flag or that cancellation or postponement was a little bit of a lucky one for me, I guess. First race with P6. Not really good, then missing Malaysia. I mean, that is a mediocre result and a devastating result right there. And now we're in P3. And in all fairness, the gap to Colin Spook today is a bit worrying. Obviously, with all the series going on right now, practice was a bit harmed or a bit compromised. But I don't think that explains 20 seconds in full. So, yeah. Probably a little bit of work to do here.
Well, anyway, thank you for words from all of our podium sitters. Of course, great race win for Colin Spork, a great second place for Noah Roivers, and a great third place for Michi Hoyer as well. We'll catch up with Cameron Roger, who'll tell us a little bit about his opinion from that round, as well as announcing the next one.
Yeah, that was certainly an interesting one before the race happened. So yeah, just thanks to the drivers and the teams for being really cooperative with sorting out the few server issues that sort of have been going around recently. We tried something and it seems to paid off, but obviously just needed a bit of messing around with the team. So yeah, great that we ended up getting a great race after that. But yes, as you may have seen on the schedule in the previous races, there was a community vote for what the round is going to be for round number 5, and the choices were either Zandvoort, Le Mans, or the Nürburgring. And the vote finished during that race, and I can confirm it was Le Mans that won. So that is going to be the next race on the 1st of May. As you see on the screen, was a great race last year, hugely dramatic with Dennis and Yerne coming together in the Porsche curves at the end of the lap as well. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be great. So in a couple of weeks we'll be there, and yeah, should be a pretty exciting one again.
Oh, thanks, Cam. And Ewan, that means we get to go and race at Le Mans. It's going to be a fantastic one. We'll catch up with that in a moment. We'll take a look at the drivers' standings after the 4th round, but 3rd race of the 2022 Formula Sim Racing World Championship. Of course, Colin Spork will lead the way. 81 points, 16 points clear of Dennis Jordan, whose recovery effort throughout the day still holds on to 2nd of the championship, just ahead of his teammate Alex Siebel in 3rd. Noah Roivers, after that podium finish, moves up in the standings into 4th, just a few points off of Siebel, Jan Vosnitzer, Sander Kallas, Laurent Kiersmakers, Michi Hoyer up inside of the top 10, Ivan Leonov and Robin Panzar, the final spot inside the top 10 on the standings. Ewan, gonna love going racing at Le Mans. I mean, especially after a race like this, I thought this one was a very entertaining one.
Yeah, I have to say, I absolutely loved Le Mans last year. Possibly my favourite of the year as a whole for the season, actually. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that in a couple of weeks' time. Make sure you join us. It will be good. But yeah, this was a very interesting race. And unfortunately, we did have that little incident on lap 1. We haven't really seen many of those in FSR in recent history. In the last couple of years, that's probably the biggest I've seen in the last 3 or so years. It's unfortunate these things do happen on occasion, but in the end we still got a decent race after it. It's still very early days in this championship and almost anybody can win it, but they are going to need to do something about Colin Sport because he's looking in fine form at the moment, and we'll see if that continues on in a fortnight's time.
Certainly is looking a touch strong. But either way, that wraps us up for round number 4 of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. Once again, thanks to our broadcast partners in VCO, as well as our sponsors in Masita Esports, 3D Rap and SimLab. I've been Lewis McGlade. Ewan O'Leary has been alongside with Felix van Delft behind all of the honestly awful camera work. No, I'm joking. This afternoon. We'll see you next time in May. Until then, though, bye-bye.